3 years in the military. Hope you have your questions ready. Hit me in the bottom right-hand corner in the notes or in the comments, and I'll make sure we bring you up and get a question for Mike Flynn. He's got 2 hours with us. And again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Help me coordinate or move this room around, okay?
Yeah, 100%, brother. 100%.
Roger Stone just made it into the room. Roger, thank you for being here. I just added you, Roger.
There we go.
Hey, and I had problems getting on. I'm sorry I'm late tonight, guys.
I had a few issues myself.
So let's do
And
it.
I just sent the link to
Everybody in
Mike.
the room, hit the bottom right corner and make sure you retweet the space. Roger Stone, pleasure to see you again. This is going to be crazy. Roger Stone and General Flynn on the same stage. Wow. I mean, let's talk about it. GC, Elena, I mean, this is going to be insane. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it should be great. So, there's Mike. I think, is that LTG? I think that's Mike down there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Mike, I just sent you an invite. You'll see it, I think, in the bottom left-hand corner.
Oops.
I don't know if you see it, Nelson. And also, guys, I put Mike's book up at the top link. It's the name of the book is The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. I don't know how many of you read, man. Like, I got 3 books going on right now, and this is one of them, and I hope you guys go out and take the time to get it. There's Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, welcome.
Hey, Grant. All right. I think I got in. Yeah. I mean, this is my first time doing this. So, new world here. I like this, actually. It's a great format, and appreciate you running the show here. Thank you.
Well, you got it. And Roger, I don't know if you see Roger Stone in the room. Roger helped me get this with you. We had a blast a couple weeks ago. Roger, thank you for being here.
Yep, I sure do. I do see Roger. Yeah, had a good conversation, and Roger had a great interview. For those that don't catch the Stone Zone, he had a great interview with Alex Jones. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Roger, it was terrific.
That is correct. You'll have to go see it on Rumble since Alex is not allowed in this space. With no disrespect to Elon Musk, to whom I am eternally grateful for my voice being returned. I do wish he would let Alex back, but I don't make those decisions. I guess I wanted to just come on for a beginning at the top because this is really about General Flynn and his story, which is similar to mine in some ways and different in some ways. But General Flynn and I were friends for a good year and a half without having never met. We only had text back and forth and spoken on the phone occasionally. We were both on trial in the same courtroom. We were both on trial being persecuted by the same people. So we had a common bond long before we met. And then we met actually on January 5th for the first time ever. And since then, we have spoken together on many platforms, and we've shared a few meals, and I've gotten to know him and his family extremely well. And I just have to say, as someone who has worked for 4 American presidents, as someone who has known numerous United States senators, governors, congressmen, and a handful of military leaders, General Mike Flynn is one of the finest men I have ever met. He's a man of enormous faith. He is a man of enormous persistence. He is a patriot. The things they did to him are actually slightly worse than the things they did to me, if that can be believed. A point was reached in his case where even the Justice Department recognized that his prosecution was tainted, that it was politically motivated, and the prosecutors moved to dismiss the case. And of course, the judge refused to do that, stalled, then appointed a special counsel of his own, which he had no authority to do, to prolong the agony. So I am absolutely convinced, and I've said it on many stages, that General Michael Flynn's greatest public service still lies ahead. He is a warrior. He knows that we are in a spiritual battle. He has really put himself out there in terms of travel and time and effort and focus. And he is loved by millions of Americans who understand what he was forced to endure because of his beliefs and because of the danger that he poses to the deep state based on his knowledge and his experience. So I'm going to shut up because this is really about General Flynn. But I want to thank you, Grant, for putting this together. My first experience in Twitter, I was a Twitter space virgin. I loved it. The first one I did with Grant Cardone. I helped persuade the general to join you tonight, and take it away, Grant.
Yeah, and again, Roger, thank you for being here. General Flynn, my wife's up here next to me. We're both big fans, and just want to first thank you for your 33 years of service. And my first question, and I'm gonna just let you go from here. There's a lot of everyday common people in this room that we don't know. For instance, I don't know all the terms. I don't know what things mean. But I've read a bit about your story. I posted your book up top with a link for people to go straight to your website to get it. Is the story about Grenada true, where you jumped off of a 40-foot cliff to retrieve two soldiers stranded in the ocean?
That's a great. Thanks, Grant and Roger, for that intro too. Yep, the story in Grenada. I went down there with the 82nd Airborne Division. I was a platoon leader. We were at the I guess it was the western end of the airfield, running a monitoring post where we were monitoring Cuban communications coming into the island at the time. And I'm grew up as a great swimmer and a surfer. I've been surfing for 50 years now, Grant, more than 50 years. And anyway, so I've been out and I've surfed damn near all over the world. Anyway, at that time, I was alerted that there was two soldiers that were being swept out off of the currents of around the island of Grenada there, and the currents were pretty strong. And I went over to the cliff where we were where we were basically at, and it was a pretty high cliff, probably 40 feet or more. And I took a look at the ocean, try to understand what I was about to go into, and I did. And I jumped off and was able to effect the rescue of those two soldiers, and got them out of the water safe and sound. So, yep, that's.
And you were reprimanded for that, right?
Yeah, I was reprimanded. Yep, because it was place of my. It was like, they figured at the time, the guys that were going to come out, because a helicopter ended up coming out, which was part of the rescue. But when I got to them, and I was, I was a lifeguard. I've done a lot of this kind of stuff. And as a surfer, I've pulled my surf buddies out of the water in some pretty dangerous conditions. And so I knew right away. It was daylight still. We were actually, when I got them out to at least the side of the cliff, it was right at dusk. But when I watched them, I knew right away that they were in trouble, and one of them was in serious trouble. So, yep, that happened.
So, should I call you General Flynn, Mike? What should I call you?
Mike.
I never know
call
what
me
to
Mike.
call.
Yeah, no, call me
Okay.
Mike. Yeah.
So, Mike, you later became a U.S. National Security Advisor. What is that position, and what do you do, and what do you see?
Yeah, so for everybody, I think the people that don't understand that the National Security Advisor to the President of the United States is a position that has really got to be have a really special relationship with the president. And from the moment Donald Trump and I met, and I met him up in New York at Trump Tower, he invited me to come down to just get to know each other, and we spent a couple hours together. And I had a chance to meet some of his team, but also met Eric at that time. And anyway, so for the next couple of years, we rode together. And in the campaign, the 2016 campaign, and when he asked me to be his national security advisor, I knew right away what that meant. National security advisor is the basically exactly what it says. You're the security advisor to the President of the United States, on behalf of the United States of America on all issues, everything. It's not just about international affairs or foreign policy and the wars that we're involved in. Of course, we were enmeshed in certainly Afghanistan and Iraq still in that time frame. But we also have, the National Security Advisor does everything from border security. We get deeply involved in the drug problems that are going on in the country, trade. I mean, everything, every single thing that the country does or doesn't do, the National Security Advisor will have his or her fingerprints on it, and on a daily basis, in fact, multiple times a day, has interactions with the president. And I traveled with President Trump, obviously during the campaign and during the transition, and for the period of time I was in the White House, we traveled quite a bit, actually, back and forth on different issues. So, and you do. National Security Advisor is one of the people in the nuclear code chain, so to speak. So understand, I was briefed fully on that and knowledgeable of that particular capability that the United States has. So the National Security Advisor has a complete portfolio of damn near everything that the government is going to be involved in or not. One of the other things, though, I think, because of the audience that's here and all the things that we've learned over the last, number of years now, 5, 6, 7 years, I guess, the National Security Advisor also oversees really the security state. So people don't necessarily answer to you directly, although the influence that you have over, organizations like the CIA, the DNI, the DIA, the NSA, all the the three-letter agencies. The National Security Advisor is a director of those, kind of on behalf of the President of the United States. The National Security Advisor runs national security meetings, which are really super important. They're done in the down in the White House itself, down in the bowels of the White House, and on a daily basis, and makes huge decisions, or is part of huge decisions, not only for what the president needs to be presented and briefed on, but also some cases making those decisions, themselves. The National Security Advisor will have to make decisions based on what the president, what the president wants to do or doesn't want to do. So very, very extremely important position. It's vital to the country. And it's one of the reasons, because of my background and experience, and I just, a nickel tour of my career, appreciate you mentioning, nearly 3.5 decades of service in the military, but sort of my second half of my career where I was at very, very senior and sensitive levels from not only a combatant command where I was in charge of intelligence for all of Central Command, which is the Middle East, East Africa at the time, Central Asia. I had the role as the Joint Special Operations Senior Intelligence Officer, where I was responsible for all operations around the world for that particular command, and that command has a range of capabilities and requirements. And principally, we were the organization responsible for going after really the high-end terrorist networks around the world. And I also worked in the Pentagon for a year for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so the senior military advisor in uniform to the President of the United States. I was the chief head of intelligence in the Pentagon, inside the Pentagon, as on the Joint Staff, and I held that position for a while. And of course, I was in and out of Afghanistan and Iraq in very, very senior positions, and for a long period of time, for nearly 5 years. And then prior to being the National Security Advisor and prior to getting out of the military, I was also the Assistant Director of National Intelligence. So my immediate boss, who I saw damn near every day when I was not traveling, was Jim Clapper, of all people, right? And people can ask me questions about him if you want. But I was the Assistant Director for National Intelligence for all foreign law enforcement and state-level intelligence. So all international, all national, and all state-level intelligence operations for the country and for overseas. I was the main intelligence person at the national level, responsible for the interaction and the operations and how they functioned. And then, of course, I was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is also you're also dual hatted as a senior military intelligence officer for the Department of Defense. And I love that.
That was under Barack, right?
That was, yeah. So twice. So yeah. And one of the things I always like to highlight is that, so that director of national intelligence position that I was in and the director of a defense intelligence agency, I was appointed by Barack Obama twice. And I was 100% confirmed, fully confirmed by the United States Senate for both those positions. And then a year and a half later, after I had gotten out of the military, less than a year and a half, our illustrious Department of Justice, working through the FBI, had me under investigation. And I always like to tell people that after all that was said and done, and we know now, we can talk a little bit about this if you want, but we know now that they didn't even find an unpaid parking ticket on anything, and they of course they closed the investigation. But on the very famous meeting on the 5th of January 2017, Barack Obama directed the investigation on me to stay open, and that's when Uncle Joe Biden, President Biden, I guess, he raised this idea of the Logan Act, and everybody in the room was like, "What's that?" So that's kind of a bit of the background. National Security Advisor in the White House, and then a little bit of a teaser as to how the next sort of stage was set, and of course here we are. And I do want to say before I shut up here for a second, Grant, that I do really appreciate Elon Musk and what Elon Musk has done. I mean, he has obviously spent billions of dollars to own this capability in Twitter, but what he has done for humanity and what he has done for freedom of speech is priceless.
Yeah, and I can't thank him enough. And one of the reasons, Mike, I have the other platforms I use for disseminating my business activities, and I have pushed so much energy and effort here and resources to thank him, to bring content here, because the commitment he's made here. I mean, people say he's just a rich guy that made a play over here, but the truth is he could have been doing 44 billion other things.
Yeah. And he's learning now. I think that, one of the things that he's seeing, as a lot of people are seeing, is he's seeing how the sort of the globalist elite will turn on their own, because I did consider him in that category. Just because of not only his wealth, but his the kinds of things that he's involved in, but how they will turn on their own and eat their own, and obviously he's like an enemy of the state now, right? Because
exactly.
He's opened up. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I understand this. Okay, there's two positions. You were with Obama. How did you get that role with Obama? How does somebody become the director of defense intelligence, and what is it, and what do you do every day?
Yeah. So, I had never really spent that much time in Washington, D.C. So I didn't go to Washington, D.C. as a officer or as an intelligence officer until I was a 2-star. So that's a lot. That's a lot of years in the service before going to Washington, D.C., where a lot of people that will make flag rank, general or admiral in the Navy. You usually kind of go in and out of Washington, D.C., and you go kiss the ring or whatever you want to call it. But in my case, I spent all my years in the field. So I was I spent 17 years of my nearly 34 years at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the 82nd Airborne Division, the 18th Airborne Corps, or Special Operations Command. And so I had a really, really strong career in the field as a very effective leader and as a very effective intelligence officer. And then, of course, during that time, I had also deployed quite a bit. You mentioned we talked, kidding about Grenada, but I deployed to Grenada as a lieutenant. I deployed to Panama. I deployed to places like Honduras and elsewhere in Central America. I deployed to other places around the world, and as well as Iraq and Afghanistan and other roles. And so I had spent, before I went to Washington D.C. The times when Obama appointed me, I had spent nearly 5 years in combat. So my background and my experiences, my expertise, the network of people that I knew was very, very extensive, especially the international network, because I had worked with so many other countries over my career. I'd become, I just become very, very good friends with a lot of people that rose in the ranks in their own countries, and so I had very strong relationships. So, I was one of those guys where it's like, well, when they start looking at, well, who's best suited to run this particular organization, I was honored to be asked, and I felt very privileged to be able to hold that position. And you're talking about somewhere between 17 and 20,000 people that you're in charge of. And the guy the funny thing is Leon Panetta. Leon Panetta was the Secretary of Defense at the time. And so really my immediate boss in the military side was Secretary of Defense Panetta. So these are people that I know. And these are some names that maybe some of the people that are listening tonight know and have heard of. But the network of people that I have run into or worked with or come across, is very, very extensive over the years. And then, of course, my expertise, not just in intelligence, but in strategy and in geo strategic issues. I was very, very involved in what was going on in Mexico in the drug cartels, which got me very intimate with the Drug Enforcement Agency and what was happening with the introduction of various narcotics into this country, and how our intelligence operations were running. So the spread or the scale and the scope, I guess, is really a better way to say it, of the jobs that I've had and the assignments that I've had and the people that I've worked for, particularly the people. It's immense, and like I said, I was honored. I feel very privileged, and to have had those and to have served in those positions, and definitely with the people. The most important thing I think of anything I learned was that by far we have the best people in the world in our military, but especially our enlisted and our sergeants, our non-commissioned officers.
So Michael, and Trump becomes president. You vote, right? Military votes.
Yeah.
Were you a Trump fan? I mean, how did you get involved in Trump's world?
Yeah, no. So it's funny, and with me in the military, I did vote infrequently, to be honest with you, because I was deployed a lot, and it was very hard. I mean, if there's a person that understands the absentee ballot system, it's me. And because as a commander, you would have to, you'd have to exercise it with your troops. And, if people wanted to vote, you got to work out and work through the system to be able to do that. It's not easy, but it's a thorough system, absentee ballots. So I tell you that because in the military, I really was an infrequent voter. I mean, if there was an issue, I would vote on it, but I wasn't one to get in there and vote for, a governor or a president, particularly the president. And honestly, it was because I always looked at the chain of command as sacrosanct, and I didn't want to taint myself. I was totally focused on my mission and the mission that I had, whatever unit that I was in. And I just didn't look at it like that. And now when I got out, or as I was getting out of the military, and then when I did get out of, right after getting out, I started to be approached by people who were looking to run for president. And a couple of them actually, asked me to come in and speak to them about national security related issues, because again, my background and my experience is very broad, and also my educational background too. I've got 3 master's degrees that I was privileged to get those. I worked my tail off to get them, but I got them. One I got late at night because I thought I might be getting out of the military at a certain point early on in my career. But so with Trump, I was
Mike, let me ask you. So when you said people approach you that might be running, was that from the right or the left side?
Yeah, it was really from the Republican side, and you know, when you get I was a lifelong Democrat. I mean, I actually just changed my party affiliation only 2 years ago, and maybe I'll talk about that when we talk about some of the other things that I got involved in with Trump. But I really never looked at myself as a political person. I didn't really think about Democrat and Republican. And frankly, I'm from up in the state of Rhode Island. And for anybody up in the Northeast that's on this call here, I'm from an Irish Catholic family, a family of 9 brothers and sisters. My mother and my father, both my parents are deceased. My father was a World War II and Korea vet. He retired from the Army as a sergeant. Went to work as a teller. At that time, with 7 kids, and then my mom. Of course, he and my mom had 2 more. And my mom she was just a superb woman and brilliant, and ended up getting her law degree later on in life. But all that about my sort of political bent, I didn't really care. What I cared about was the direction of the country. And at the time, particularly at the time, I began to see that the country was and I think it was really the last few years of the military, but because I'm looking at decisions being made, and this goes back to the Bush administration, decisions being made about what we were doing in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Obama came in, and the decision making didn't get much better. And what I saw this deterioration of everything in our country. But I continued. I'm a good soldier, and I continued, and I feel like I'm a decent leader, and I take good care of people. And I think you'll find most of the people, anybody that ever worked with me, you'll find them they would say, "Yep, no, I Flynn always treated you fairly." And all of a sudden, we are now starting in on like 2015 timeframe, and I'm getting calls from different candidates for presidency, and one of whom was Donald Trump. And it was early in the primary season, and I actually sat down with about, I think, 5 total presidential candidates for different conversations, different questions that they would ask, and it was always about international relations, strategic issues, the war on drugs, the border security, the inner workings of the intelligence community, inner workings of the Defense Department, inner workings of the State Department. I mean, how our government works, because many of these people, even those that were senators, they don't know. They really don't know, their staffs, Grant, are like, a senator's staff is maybe a dozen people. I'm talking about, I was commanding, 50 people when I was a lieutenant. I was commanding 20,000 when I was a lieutenant general. So, and wow. I understand the government very, very well, and I understand budgets, and I understand how our government. I completely understand how the inner workings of our government operates. I have been in front of many committees in front of Congress. I have been behind closed doors, all those kinds of things. So I had a wealth of knowledge. And anyway, so
let me ask you on that question. Okay, so these guys, I'm guessing the Bush family probably called you. He was running at the time against Trump. Who else was there? Did Mitt Romney run that cycle?
Yeah, no, he didn't. And the Bush did not reach out. It's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because you would have thought that they did, but I think that Jeb Bush. I actually think that Jeb Bush felt like he had it locked. I felt like he was like the heir appointed, anointed one, and of course he was sorely mistaken. People that reached out was like Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, Ted Cruz, of course Trump, and I'm trying to think. There was another one. I just lost his name. The governor up there in
Chris.
No, not Christie.
No.
Not Christie. Up in Minnesota, I think. Not Minnesota.
Scott Walker.
But anyway,
Scott Walker.
Yeah, Scott Walker. There you go.
Yeah. So are they meeting with you, Mike, to get cred, to get intel to make
Yeah,
themselves to beef up their resume? And then who's paying for
they're
these meetings? Like who's
they're
funding this activity?
oh, it's just part of their campaign. They would bring together a group of people, and they'd invite me in to have a Q&A, kind of like what we're doing now, but in a much more detailed, way in terms of specific questions about specific issues. And I wasn't getting paid anything. I didn't take a dime for any of that. I was just trying to help people who wanted help and were asking me. During that entire time, though, especially early on in 2015, or from the summer of 2015 through probably the early part, I was in weekly contact with Trump and Trump's team at that time, answering a lot of questions, because he was one of probably the most inquisitive of all of them. Some of them that I talked to, you'd get the sense that they were just sort of going through sort of pro forma. And as the primaries went on, obviously they started to fall to the wayside. But I always felt like the connection that I guess my point is that the connection that I had with Trump was really strong. The connection that I had with the others, not so much, because they were very, very political. These were political people from the political world. And I think, and I'm not like that. I'm not a good political person. I'm like, I'm brass tacks. You're gonna get from me what you see, and that's why I think Trump and I connected so well. And we ended up. So I ended up, really, riding with him. And one of the things because I mentioned that about my political affiliation, right? I was a registered Democrat. It really meant really nothing to me, because I believe in this country so much. But when Trump was narrowing down the field for vice president in June of 2016, I was one of the final four candidates, and they went through a vetting process, and the other three were Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Newt Gingrich, and myself. And what's funny, the long haul is I'm the registered Democrat.
That's for the position. That's for what position?
Vice President of the United States.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that was, and he didn't make that decision until after the 4th of July weekend. He actually didn't make that decision until about 4 or 5 days before the Republican convention. So for about a month, we were being touted as potential vice presidential running mates. I was among them, but then started bubbling up. He's a registered Democrat. He's a Democrat. There's, the Republican Party, they really talk about a uniparty. They many in that camp, they could not stand me because, again, I was close to Trump. I was not a Republican. Again, the affiliation aside, didn't really matter to me. But of all the four people, and those names I just mentioned, that have not, that did not turn on that guy, is the one guy that was the registered Democrat, right? I mean, and it's not so much turning. Yeah. All the other three have been horrific. And, and I'm a big fan of Newt. I like Newt. I've been in touch with Newt recently. I think he's brilliant. But I, at the time that it mattered, people, like in his case, I think he started to second guess, everything going on, because people started to believe the bullshit. Excuse my Irish. People started to believe the bullshit that was going on with the Russia stuff. I mean, God, even today, look at what we learned from Twitter file dumps, right? The Russiagate stuff that's coming out. It's just outrageous. So I rode with Trump all the way through the campaign, the convention, the debates, all the debates. I was in the room prepping him, helping him to prep for the debates. We attended all the debates. I attended damn near every rally that he went up. I would introduce him at all the rallies. And then, of course, he won. And when he won, all hell broke loose. And
Mike, hang on, Mike, because you got to walk me through what's going on. You're on the inside now. Like you the first time, and I'm sorry to interrupt you with all respect, but you meet Trump the first time. Like, what was that like? What happened? Is he standing up, patting you on the back like he does, making you feel all good, warm and comfortable, or what?
No. No. I went up to Trump Tower. In fact, I got a call about I don't know, a day or two prior. Hey, can you come down? And I was up in Rhode Island, actually. And can you come down and meet with Mr. Trump on, blah, blah, whatever the date was. It was like August 2015. And I said, sure. And so I went down to New York City, went to Trump Tower, went up to his office. And I was told, he wants to meet for, maybe has 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And I said, okay. And I had just done a open hearing to the House, the House of Representatives. It was a committee on the Iranian nuclear deal about a month prior, and Trump had seen that. And I didn't know that until I went into the meeting. So when I went in, it was just he and I in his office, and he's sitting at his big desk. I'm sitting there, and we shook hands, and how you doing? And that, kind of a quick get to know you. And then we started to talk, and that's when right away I knew this guy was deadly serious about where he was at. And this was not that long after he came down the escalator. When people were talking at that time that this guy was a joke, this guy was deadly serious from the beginning. And he started to walk around the world, a world that I knew very, very well in fair detail. And it like, I just felt like I felt very at ease and very comfortable talking with him about the entirety of the global geostrategic, geopolitical situation that we were dealing with, and that he was going to have to deal with if he were to become the president of the United States. So that 15 minutes that I was told I was going to get turned into about 2 hours. And after a couple hours, he goes, hey, before you get out of here, let me introduce you to someone. And he got on the phone, he called up whoever. And the next few minutes, Eric Trump showed up. And I had a great chance to meet Eric, who I've stayed in touch with. And I'll see him actually next week. And Eric Trump is just one of the most phenomenal young men I've ever met. And that was a nice thing that I thought that Trump did at that time, because again, we were only supposed to have 15 minutes, and we ended up a couple of hours together, and we talked about damn near everything. And that's the moment that I knew this is the guy that this country needs, because wow. He was talking to me, like when I talk to leaders. And I've met a lot of good ones, and I've met a lot of really crappy ones. And I knew right then and there that I met a person who was really a solid, strong leader, and also somebody who had a grasp of the situation in this country. That I found just awesome, and I found it refreshing. I'm listening to somebody who, wasn't looking down his nose at me, right? I mean, because you can tell that, that, Grant. You meet somebody, and especially some of these political people that think they're, they got it because they're political, right? They've been in politics their whole life, and everybody's been kissing their rear end. And when I deal with people, I don't allow that to myself, because I'm not that type of person, and I don't ever do that to anybody. And Trump didn't do that to me, and it wasn't because he was trying not to. It's because that's the way he is. He's just a decent, down to earth person.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by him, because I've been with him, and he's just a very comfortable guy. Like, he makes you feel comfortable. And so when he started telling you, walking you around the world as you described that, were you, I think most of this room would be amazed or shocked, slightly shocked at least, to think that he had acumen about what was going on around the world in these other countries.
Yeah, so we talked about, and I just give you sort of a nickel tour, but we first started talking about Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan, and of course that mess at the time. That's 2015, summer of 2015. And it wasn't wasn't going great then, but anyway, and then we got into. We got into China, we got into Russia, we got into NATO, we got into the entirety of NATO, we got into South America and all of what's going on in South America and Central America. We got into the war on drugs, and we got into the drug cartels. We got into the Asia Pacific theater, and he was very tuned into the Asia, what was going on in Korea, Japan, Australia, Indonesia, Southeast Asia. We had a long talk about the relationships between India and Pakistan, or the lack of those relationships, and of course India and China. I mean, it was a breathtaking walk around the world, and in some cases fair detail, and in also some cases, knowledge of who were some of the people that were also in play. Like, he knew some of these people, he knew some of these leaders because he had done it. He's an international businessman, right? I mean, it's all the different aspects of the Trump International and all the things he was involved in. And at that time, when we first met, I had done some study of him prior to going down there, but I didn't really understand the full breadth of the Trump organization, even at that moment. I mean, I thought I did, but I really didn't, because wasn't something that was my purview. My purview was really the strategic situation and issues in play that affected this country, affected the United States of America, and what risks were out there that we were still taking. And we talked about economics, we talked about politics, we talked about financial systems, we talked about militaries of the world, we talked about alliances and partnerships and relationships. I just found it refreshing. I was like, wow, man. I felt like I was talking to another fellow senior leader in the military who a couple that come to mind that could have those kinds of conversations, and Trump was able to do that, to me, it just showed me that he has really, number one, he took very serious what he was contemplating doing, which was he'd already announced running for president of the United States, and number two, he really had a breadth of knowledge of what was going on in the world. Just extraordinary.
At that point, Mike, the world was completely laughing at him as a joke running. What kind of chances did you give him? And then the night that he was elected, where were you, and what was that like?
Yeah, the night that number one, the chances were very high, because when
you thought he had a high chance.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think from the beginning, because my intuition or sense of where the American people were, and I think that's why I got involved in the political landscape, because I really do. I can't stand the political system, or the politics as we have right now. I mean, I love our system of government, our Constitution, and our republic, but God, the politicians and the politics that we have is just so ugly. But Trump didn't have any of that. He was like this fresh upstart who was brilliant and tough as nails, that sort of New York toughness. And he was going to take, sort of no holds barred campaign, and he wasn't going to let anybody knock him down. And certainly if he got knocked down, he was going to get right back up in your face. So that was refreshing, and I think the American people, they resounded. They really, really appreciated that, because all the other people were all these polished politicians who were, who felt like they were the anointed ones because they had been in politics their whole lives and never had to sign a paycheck for anybody, right? I mean, it's that simple. It's that simple, Grant. I think that. As things went on, as we progressed through the campaign, I think what we really began to learn was that once all the Republican Party was out of the way, and it was really just now it's let's fight the Hillary campaign, and God, what we've learned about that, oh my God, it's unbelievable. I mean, as bad as I knew what was happening then, I didn't realize it was this bad, and until the last couple of years, obviously, that things have come to light. But I think for Trump is one of those unique historic figures, and we were lucky to have that person show up in the country's life at the time that he did. And frankly, we can talk about the elections if you want, because I do think the 2020 election was filled with fraud. It's a grotesque abuse of our election system. People can say what they want, but they can call me names if they want, but we're in a place right now as we go forward, as we think about what's going to happen next. We're sort of in a moment of. I mean, I think I've stated this publicly. If not, I'll say it here. I mean, we're kind of in a moment of peril right now, Grant, and
Yeah.
and I think people should not look at this. No one should look at this as politics as usual, And I hope that this, it's the first time I've done one of these things on Twitter like this, and I think it's great. I think it's a superb tool, and I appreciate you.
What a great platform for this
God.
side that people that want the truth.
Absolutely. And General Flynn, this is Elena Cardone. I'm Grant Cardone's wife. I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm absolutely fascinated listening to you. And you've mentioned several things tonight about, wow, the extensiveness of your knowledge and experience on what goes on in the world is very clear. And I'm curious, we talked about, or I heard you mention about the Twitter files and the releasing of that information. And my question to you is what do you think about the weaponization of the DOJ and the FBI on citizens? And did you ever think something like that could even happen? And then I'd love to hear how that actually turned on you and how your life has been affected because of it.
Yeah. So I believe, because I am a student of history, and I studied our own history. I've studied world history, and the situation that we face right now, this rise of tyranny, rise of an oligarchy, our founders always warned us about that. And there's many quotes, there's many writings from the founders of this country where they warned us about this sort of rise of this infusion of or growth of a federal government and overreach of the federal government itself into the lives of everyday citizens. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised that we have gotten to this point. It was very predictable and very predicted, even a couple hundred years ago when our country was being founded. But I think that one of the real issues in this country, and it goes back to the beginning of our country, one of the things that we've always been most proud of among nations is our rule of law, right? And our ability to hold people fairly accountable for their actions. And one of two things that our founders always harped on. If you ever read the Federalist Papers or you read their diaries and their notes and the kinds of things that they wrote, the books that they wrote, and the speeches that they gave, they always really two big themes come out. And one of them is courage, and the second thing is accountability. And they clearly, the founders, the signers, they clearly demonstrated extraordinary, enormous courage, and they always held themselves accountable first, and they demonstrated accountability in others, next, and they were masters of it. And that sort of DNA, what's in the DNA of every American, that's been carried forward. On the battlefield, Elena, it's not the person who you think is going to be the hero. It's always the least likely person who is the hero. And that's because in the DNA of every single American, we do have a fearlessness about who we are and what we are willing to do for our families and for our country. And at the same time, we also want people to be held accountable for their actions. I mean, if somebody, breaks into your home, somebody does something to you, you want them to be held accountable. Well, right now, there are clearly two standards. I mean, look at this. Look at how we're talking about the classified information discovered in, top secret classified information discovered in Joe Biden's garage. And, what's his answer? Well, my garage door was locked. I mean,
same place I keep my Corvette.
Yeah, same place I keep my Corvette. It's so ridiculous, So it's ridiculous, but it's dangerous. And so the one thing that we all have learned about from the time we were kids was something called the rule of law, and that means that if something happens, the cops are going to show up, and they're going to, and we're going to respect the police, and we're going to help them if we need to help them. We're going to get out of the way if we need to get out of the way, and also the accountability of our judicial system or our justice system. And we just don't feel that way. I mean, you're talking to a guy who deeply, deeply understands our system of government, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our Declaration of Independence, and many, many of our civil and criminal aspects of our justice system. I mean, I joke to a degree, but a bit tongue-in-cheek, that, from what I just went through over the last 5 or 6 years, and still am in the middle of it, that I should get an honorary law degree, because I have had to write my own cases and argue my own cases and be part of that, right? And I think that we feel now in our country that our justice system is it's not justice. It's just us. JUSTUS. And that means it's just them. It's the Department of Just Us. When the Department of Justice has a conviction rate of 95%, it's actually higher than that. It's probably closer to 97%, but let's just say it's 95%, because it is definitely 95%. The conviction rate of the Department of Justice is 95%. Why? And that's because what they do is they whittle it down to where, they basically put extraordinary resources and extraordinary pressure on you,
right?
And then they whittle it down and they say, okay, if you do this, we'll do this for you, but you're gonna plead guilty. Otherwise, we're gonna withhold information. Okay. And one of the things, and I'm going to be posting it here on Twitter pretty soon, because there's a lot of haters on Twitter, and that's okay. I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a question or two maybe from some of them. But what I tell people is, in my specific case, read the dismissal filing from the Department of Justice, which was May of 2020. That in that filing, it basically says that General Flynn didn't commit a crime. We actually committed a crime against him. And even though they don't say they're sorry, they, in their way, they say, so, based on that, we're withdrawing this, because they were embarrassed after a 6-month special counsel investigation of my case, which I was not aware of. And neither, and my lawyer, Sidney Powell, at the time, we were not aware that there was a special counsel appointed by the Attorney General, and for 6 months they were in the weeds of everything going on in my case, and they realized that, number one, the FBI, and the most senior levels of the FBI, and the Washington D.C. Attorney General's office were lying. They were lying to the court, in this case the judge. They were lying up to my lawyers. They were withholding evidence. And they knew that they had evidence that had been changed, right? The infamous 302, right? My infamous 302, where the FBI said I was lying. That document was changed. Okay, they changed it. I mean, and they got caught.
Yeah, Mike. So everybody's catching up with where you're at, and you're in this story right now. You've left the Trump administration now, right?
Right.
You're being investigated for what?
Well, they started with something called FARA, which is Foreign Agency Registration Act, for in this case, talking about business dealings that we were supposedly involved in, and that never came. There was no evidence of that, none. And then they said, well, I lied to the FBI, and at that time, those are when you're in that situation, they were telling me, this is at the beginning of the Mueller investigation, really the very beginning of it. So what I was looking at, and I don't think Roger's on the horn anymore, but it's kind of like the sort of the same situation that he went into. I was looking at a grand jury in Washington D.C. that 99% of the people in Washington D.C. and the 10 counties surrounding Washington voted for Hillary Clinton. Okay, so I'm looking at a jury in Washington D.C. And a media that was incredibly harsh And I'm looking at information that my lawyers at the time, the lousy lawyers that I had at the time, but were very expensive, telling me, well, you're going to have to do this because, there's no way in the world that the FBI would ever do this. There's no way in the world that the DOJ would ever lie to us. And I said, they are. They're not. Ask them for the evidence. Ask them, and we never got there. We never got there. So I had to make a very, very difficult decision. And it was like being on the battlefield. It was like, you're on the battlefield. You feel like, there's times when you feel like, okay, this is not going the way you want it to go. So you've got to start to really think about how do you outmaneuver what it is that you are about to endeavor to decide. And I was with my wife and I, one of the things I really appreciate, you and your wife being on this. My wife and I, we've been together since we were 13 years old. And, so,
wow.
So there's nothing, wow. When people talk about Mike Flynn, all this bullshit, you don't stay with somebody that long and have that kind of loyalty and that kind of relationship unless you're solid. Both her and I, we're lucky. We're very, very blessed to be in the relationship that we have. So my wife and I made a very difficult decision, and we felt, it's one of those things where you pray over it, and it was the right decision, and it obviously turned out to be the right decision. There's risks and gambles, right? And risks you can overcome. Gambles are something where if you gamble and it's not right, then it's not something you can overcome. So we took a huge risk. We took it together, and we understood the potential consequences. Because if we hadn't gone that route in that early days of the Mueller investigation, I was probably looking at going to prison for something that I didn't do. And like I said early on in this conversation, there was an investigation on me, which I was not aware of. They did not find not even an unpaid parking ticket on me, because that's just the way I am. I'm very particular about, if I go through a red light and get stopped, if I got a ticket, I'm going to pay it, right? I'm going to pay my bills. I got great credit, right? Because I work my tail off to do the things because I was taught right by my parents. So all that said, we made that decision. It was a very, very difficult decision. And then it went on for the next couple of years. But we were, inside. Now I'm inside of the Just Us department, and I'm inside of the Mueller investigation. And I'm like, wow. And so I started to realize then not only how corrupt our system of justice is, but how evil, just pure evil. These are godless, soulless people, and they're dark spirits. And and I'm one of these people that I'm very intimate with my religion and very intimate with my relationship with God. But I have found that I need to speak more about it because that's part of what we're facing is a real spiritual battle. And again, I talk political for a second here. Most of the people, and I bet you if I asked a true or false question on this, I don't even know how many people we got on, but if I asked a true or false question.
We got about 3,500 people in here, and what I'll do is I'll put a poll up, and we'll find out how the audience rates it. What's your question?
Well, the question is, everybody would, because they're aware of the direction I'm talking. And I'll just say it, the Democratic Party under Barack Obama in 2012, prior to going into the convention, you write down a platform. These are the issues that my administration is going to adhere to, and these are the policies that we're going to create. Well, one of the things that they did in the Democratic Party platform of 2012 under Barack Obama was they removed God from the platform. And which means that they are going to remove God from all policies, all actions, all activities of the administration if they were to win. And of course, he won 4 more years. So, we don't need to have a true or false test on it, but most people don't know that. A lot of Democrats don't know that. I didn't know that at the time. I did not know that. I learned about it later on, and when I did, I was like, "Holy crap!" And my mother was deceased at the time, but my mother was a huge, and we were Democrats. My mother was a huge Right to Life. In fact, she was the president of the Right to Life Association for a number of years, as a Democrat. So, right. I mean, so something went wrong with that side of the aisle, so to speak. And because people that are Democrats but they're not progressive socialists, which is really a growing commodity inside of the left side of our political aisle, because I really find hard to say that there's a Democratic Party anymore. It's not people that are Democrats that still vote, for Democrats. I think that they don't truly understand who they're voting for sometimes, because a lot of these people that are starting to grow up in the political aspect of that party, they're not Democrats anymore. They're socialists. Many of them are Marxists. In fact, there's a couple of card-carrying Marxists inside of the U.S. House of Representatives and inside of the Senate today. So Marxism, socialism, communism has been creeping into the United States, the fabric of the United States government, and in our academic institutions, in our businesses, in our business institutions, in every walk of life in this country for decades. It wasn't overnight because Donald Trump got elected president. That's what the propaganda, the narrative, maybe we'll talk a little bit later about this book, The Fifth Generation Warfare. I mean, the war of narratives. The media makes you think like that Trump caused all this. I mean, we have such a level of deep infiltration into every system, every institution in our country, particularly in our government. And that's a danger. It's a danger. Talk about a danger to democracy. You get all the talking heads and all the mainstream media pundits all, when they do those Hollywood Squares things where everybody says the exact same thing. This is a danger. Trump is a danger to democracy. They're a danger to democracy because they spew a talking point that it's a total fake lie, and it's meant to deceive. It's actually meant to propagandize. And if you say it long, if you say it enough, if you say a lie enough,
right,
people will begin to believe it. I mean, that's a Joseph Goebbels technique in the Third Reich. So anyway, we're in a different place today in this country. Please.
Well,
yeah.
So how do you reverse it? If you were going to give somebody advice today, how do we get the DOJ, the FBI, all these government agencies pure again? Or if it ever even was pure to begin with, I don't know. But how do you clean it up at this point?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is not too long ago on Tucker Carlson, who's I consider a friend, Tucker Carlson, broke the story that we all sort of always, those of us that have ever followed it, and Roger Stone's written a good book, a terrific book about the assassination of JFK, where Tucker broke the story where the CIA was involved in the assassination of a president of the United States. So when we talk about how long has this been going on, there are a lot of examples going way back, and there's even a story about Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General for his brother, John F. Kennedy. One of the reasons why he was assassinated, one of the scenarios he was assassinated, was because he was going to follow up on his brother John's desire to basically break apart this security state apparatus that existed, because JFK was one of the ones that went after the CIA. And, I think that the point is we've had these issues for a long, long time, but what has changed is, and it really was a big change in the post-Cold War, West versus Warsaw Pact, a competition and competitive environment in the globe at that time, for 40 years up until the war ended, the Cold War ended. As we entered into the 90s and then into the early part of this beginning of this century, we started to see the rise of China, and China really made a big effort to basically overtake our government, learn everything about us, every single thing. I mean, everything. Steal us blind, steal everything that they can, and that's everything that we've ever designed. Even ideas about movies. I mean, it's every institution, and the Chinese have been masterful at it, and we've allowed it. In fact, some parts of our government over time have opened up the quote unquote the kimono to expose ourselves to China, thinking that maybe they'll become our friends. I mean, and that actually goes back to even Henry Kissinger, who was a predecessor of mine as the National Security Advisor, and other national security advisors. So these are people that were, big ticket people, and I mentioned a few from presidents to national security advisors to others that thought that, well, if we just embrace them, they'll be like us. Well, that's not going to happen, and it didn't happen. So the bigger question is, can it be fixed? Well, I'll tell you what, I had great hopes for Donald Trump, and I really do feel, and I'll say it here, that as the national security advisor for him for a period of time, one of the things I tell people, had I stayed on, had it not transpired like the way it did, and I maybe we can talk a little bit about the specifics of that, but had it not transpired the way it did, there would have been no Mueller investigation. Had I stayed on as the national security advisor, think about that. I mean, the Mueller investigation tore this country apart for years. But had I been the national security advisor, there'd have been no Mueller investigation, because none of that FISA nonsense would have happened, because all of it comes through the national security advisor's desk, comes across the desk of would have come across my desk.
So the Mueller, hold on, Elena, hold on. Yeah. I'm sorry, sweetie.
That's okay.
So you're saying the Mueller investigation, for it to work, had to go across the desk that you previously held.
Exactly.
Wow.
To even be stood up. I'd have jumped dead in their stuff and said, this is no way in the world we need. It would have never gotten to that. See, they had to get rid of a couple of people, maybe numero uno. There's a very famous, and I'm going to post this on Twitter, because people, there's, again, the haters out there that just go, treason, Russia, There's a very famous 302, which is essentially an affidavit or a deposition done by the lead FBI investigator for Crossfire Hurricane, which was the name of the entire Russian investigation, Crossfire Hurricane. So the lead agent's name was Agent Barnett. I met with him many times, and I know who he is. And at the end, under the special counsel that investigated me, after my case was dismissed, the special counsel, his name was Jenson, he continued his investigation. He was reporting into Durham. And one of the guys he sat down with finally was this lead agent. And the lead agent, Barnett, in about a 9-page deposition, a 9-page 302, and it's public, it's online, you can go find it. It's been put on Twitter all over the place. I'll post it certainly tomorrow. In it, he basically says the entirety of Crossfire Hurricane was get Flynn to get Trump. And I mean, it almost verbatim says that. And you kind of just, when I saw that, I was like, holy crap, these guys were really, talk about deviants and devious people. And this was a very senior FBI agent. And he's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life, because, for an FBI agent to have to need lawyers by his side to write his deposition and then to write what he wrote is extraordinary. It is absolutely mind blowing. That particular 302, and it's worth. So that was issued in October of 2020, a month before the election. So the entire thing right there in that one deposition, and that 1302, really blew apart the entire Russiagate thing. I mean, this was even before Hunter Biden's laptop and all that kind of stuff was, should have been exposed as well. And the media didn't touch it. The media would not talk about it whatsoever. And I just look at all this stuff and I say to myself, man, because the real question that you asked, Elena, was, can this be fixed? I actually do think it can be fixed. And I wrote an article the other day, really pointed to this new, whatever they're going to call it, this House subcommittee on the weaponization of government. And I do think that the House of Representatives is a good place to start, because we're here, right? The reality is we're here. We can't wish that Donald Trump was the president. We can't wish that we had whatever we had better governors. We can't wish that. We gotta deal with the reality that's in our face. And so the House right now can really, really expose quite a bit of all of this, and should. And I honestly think that what Elon Musk has done with Twitter, and we're going to see more and more. I mean, I know people right now that are in the weeds of all of the dumps that have already been made, all the Twitter dumps that have already been made. Never mind the great reporting by the journalists who have been reporting it. But there are other investigative journalists that are now taking the Russiagate stuff, the COVID stuff, the Fauci stuff, everything, and they're now going back in time, and a lot of that information is going to be put together, and I know we're going to do our damnedest to hand it off to this subcommittee, because the subcommittee needs to have a set of what, and they need to go after, and I mean hard after, the truth, because the one thing that if. And I always screw up scripture and all that, and I won't try to get it right. But one of the things I know about love and about joy and about faith is it all exists if there's truth. And
facts.
And I believe that there's a lot of truth coming out right now, and the whole classified nonsense that we're talking about, right, with Biden, and there's going to be some consequences from that, but the truth will always come and always rise. But one of the things I think, Grant, this is really a nod to you and to people like you, and I was out. I do a lot of swimming now, to work out and to kind of clear my mind, because when you're in the water, you got to be focused, right? So, and I've started thinking about what is it that we need, and the political people in our country that have risen up in politics from the time they were interns at some political office, they're not working. That way of
right.
Of class development is not working, and our founders never wanted a political class, anyways. What we need is we need leaders. We need warrior leaders, and we need people from the business community. We need people from the military. We need leaders. We need such strong leadership in this country, because, Elena, to really get to the essence of your question, can this be fixed? And my absolute belief is yes, it can. But not with the group that we have right now. So we have got to figure out. And this is why I've tried to sort of coin the phrase "local action equals a national impact." One of the beauties of our founders is that they created this country from the bottom up, right? They created this country from the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for individuals, not for the federal government, not for even states' rights. They started with us, the individuals, and they gave us all these beautiful, I call them the 10 Commandments, right? Our Bill of Rights. They gave them to us, and they said, protect them. And we've squandered them. We've been apathetic. We've been lazy. And we've allowed a political class to just overtake everything in our country. And we have to stop that. But it's only going to stop with leadership. And I mean extraordinary leaders. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I think this is going to be a great place to start, citizens getting together like this and having conversations from their homes. This has never existed before. So this could be a place.
I love
to
this.
start.
No, I mean, I think that this is great. I mean, and not because I didn't even know this existed, and maybe because I've been off of Twitter, but this is a great way to just say, hey, pop up. There's a huge, something going on. Come on in and join.
Yeah, it's a conversation. So look, we got a lot of hands up. Guys, the name of the book is Fifth Generation Warfare. I put a link above. Grab a copy of Mike's book if you're enjoying the conversation. We got a couple of polls. 96% of the people find this conversation amazing, by the way. Or is it 94? It's 94. You lost a couple points there, Mike. So there's 6% of the people in the room that they're not digging or vibing on it, but they did take time to stay here, come here, and vote on the poll. So I got a bunch of hands up. A bunch of ladies want to ask you a question, Mike. Anybody want to start? Let's say Maze and then Manda.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, this has been so amazing. I'm over here like literally hitting the 100 sign so many times. I'm surprised it's not broken. So, um, I actually really
I
love.
don't. Does she not want to go or?
I'm speaking. Oh, she probably can't hear me, guys.
I
You
can
might
hear
need to.
you.
Oh, you
I can
can?
hear
Okay.
you. Yep.
So,
What's your
um,
name?
oh, this is Maze.
Maze.
Maze
Okay.
Love.
Okay.
So, I think Elena's question just around that, one of the biggest things as a truth seeker that I've been trying to bring to the forefront is kind of the idea of the globalization agenda, the 2030 agenda, the WEF. And, a lot of times in these rooms, the question comes up, can we fix this or what can we do? And it seems extremely overwhelming. But ultimately, with Grant and, people like you and, speaking up, just educating people and informing people through our awareness, I think that we're all going to find unique ways within our own life to be able to navigate and make decisions, right? So I was curious. I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to be good. And I'm just going to narrow it down to this one. And you spoke on it a little bit, but I'm curious to know your take on what's happening with the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, and how do you see that playing into the future as we're moving through the rest of this decade by 2030?
Okay. It's a great question. And for those that don't know, the World Economic Forum actually meets this coming Sunday and all next week in Davos, Switzerland. So they're going to have another big meeting. And for some reason, Chris Wray, our FBI director, is going there. I have no earthly idea why he needs to be there, but that's a sidebar. But I want people to understand that the World Economic Forum is very, very real. The Great Reset is very real. Klaus Schwab, who started the World Economic Forum in 1971, read the Great Reset. I mean, these people it's in their own words, so don't take my word for it. But Klaus Schwab talks about the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is essentially an extension of the Third Reich. And these people have a globalist mentality where, like he says you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Those are his words. And they have advisors like this Yuval Noah Harari, who is a historian, a Jewish guy, but he's like a scientific advisor, and he talks about how he actually touts people like Hitler and Stalin, and he talks about how dictatorships would have been better off if they had the means by which that we are seeing globally with vaccination programs and surveillance. What in his words, surveillance under the skin, in his words. So I'm not, again, don't listen to what Flynn's saying. Go listen to what these people say in their own words, and pay very close attention to this World Economic Forum that's coming up. What is going to happen to this world is we have two things that are going to happen in 2023. We're going to see a massive financial transition of the global economy, and we are going to see a massive health system adjustment. And for many on this call, what you don't know, because it was done in secret, really, but the World Health Organization has met this week, and they are tomorrow they finish, and then the World Health Organization director and his staff minions, are going to go attend the World Economic Forum. But one of the things that they're looking to do is they're looking. In fact, they have approved themselves. These are unelected, thugs. So they have approved themselves to be a world body that now can dictate law, okay, and not just be a health organization that provides guidance and direction to health issues around the world. They are now looking to be a compliance enforcer for health issues globally. And so, there's some great Substack writing and articles about that, and people need to pay attention to that. That's going to be transposed into the World Economic Forum this week.
So,
Klaus
so Mike,
Schwab.
Mike, I'm sorry again, Grant. Who goes to the World Economic Forum? How do you get an invite to it? How rich do you need to be, or how connected?
You need to be very connected. You are brought up. Usually it's the majority of world leaders in the I would say in the G20. Okay, so the G20 nations, and Klaus Schwab was the keynote speaker in Bali, Indonesia, 2 months ago at the G20 summit. And so like people like Macron, right, President of France. The Yardbird there up in Canada, Trudeau, he's another member of the World Economic Forum. Joe Biden is a member. And there's I can go on and on. But it's again, go look at their website. Go look up the World Economic Forum websites for those that are listening here tonight. Just look it up and look at their board, look at their advisors, look at what they talk about, what they tout. They used to hide in the dark spaces of the sort of the elitists in the world, and now they're no longer doing that. And they haven't been doing that for probably certainly the last couple of years. They've been very public about what their plans are. And like I said, I think we have two transitions that we're about to experience. One is the financial system, and one is the health system. And the other part about this, like there's the BRICS nations, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And the BRICS nations, as an alliance, as an economic alliance, they have actually become much stronger. When you start to look at who's buying gold and where is gold being stored by different nations. Well, in the past, other nations on the planet would never align themselves with the BRICS because they were, China was really a third world nation until Barack Obama allowed them into the World Bank during his tenure. They were really a third world country economically, but they've been buying and storing ungodly amounts of gold. So, and that matters. So the BRICS, I want people to understand BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And now, who are the new alliances, cozying up to them? Saudi Arabia is one, Turkey is another, and of course some of these other, the sort of the Venezuela, the Iran, Russia, and some of its alliances along its southern tier. There's a lot of countries that are now starting to cozy up to the BRICS, because one of the things since World War II that has been the currency of choice globally has been the U.S. dollar, and that's at risk. The U.S. dollar as the currency of choice for global trade is at severe risk, and what they are going to move towards, and again, I want people to go read this. Don't just listen to what I'm telling you. Go pull up Executive Order 14067. Executive Order, this is U.S. Presidential Executive Order 14067. And it has to do with central bank digital currency, CBDC, central bank digital currency. It was signed I believe on the 8th of March this past year. It was enacted on the 13th of December last month. And the U.S. government already has some actions in play. They have been testing it, and it's in a lot of ways it's like the Chinese system of their monetary system, and it's a central bank digital currency. And guess what, folks? And again, don't go listen to some of these people on the world that are part of the World Economic Forum. Don't listen to me. They talk about what does that look like? Is it a paper dollar in your pocket? No. What they'll tell you is that it's a chip under your skin. Okay, and that's been described like that by some very, very serious people, and so everything that I'm telling you are things that I have been looking very intensely at and studying for the last couple of years, because I think that as Americans, once a lot of people that are sort of true believers, and I guess I'm probably in that category. But I think people that are like over there on one side of the aisle, that kind of go, this is all bullshit. Flynn's full of it. He's a conspiracy theorist, blah, 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 all the labeling, again, that's fine. Don't believe me. Go do your own research, but you better do it. And you better be ready, because it's coming. And
how do you think they're going to sell it? How are they going to sell the chip? Like, we all have to get the chip, because it seems like the COVID was just a big petri experiment to see how far they could go, and it seemed like they could go pretty far.
Yeah, the vaccine, as far as I'm concerned, it's like a murder weapon, and it's so sad. I feel so sad for people who felt they needed to take it because some influencer on TV said, "Oh, I'm taking it, so you got to take it," or the government, forced people out of their jobs to take it. And I feel sad that people had to take it. I have people in my family that did it. So it's not like, so we are all affected by it. So how does it work? How are they going to make it work? Well, when you start talking about, corporations and businesses that have what's called an ESG score, I'm trying to watch all the people that are tapping their things about ESG score. Most people don't know what that is. It's environmental, social, and governmental score. So that means you have to meet a certain set of conditions. Otherwise, you're going to have an unfavorable score, and you may get, penalized by our own government. So that's also the same thing with individuals, because we're going to be given something called a carbon footprint. And go back and read Executive Order 14067. Read it and study it and understand what it means. So if we have a carbon footprint, if I have a carbon footprint, what does that mean? That means that the government says to me, well, you know what? You've had your fill of gasoline this month. So when you go to fill your truck up, or you go to fill your car up, your card is not going to work. You've had your fill of milk and bread, this month. I mean, this is the sort of the direction that they are going to be able to control. So if the government is going to decide on your carbon footprint is having an effect on this idiotic climate change nonsense that we get shoved down our throats, and they're spending billions and billions of our hard-earned dollars on, and we're dictated to as to where we can spend our money, where I can drive. Can I drive more than 5 miles outside of my community? Can I drive to the next state? Will states stop me? Will some states that are going to say, well, you don't have your vaccine identification card, which is a World Health Organization rule that came out of the G20. So all of the G20, which Klaus Schwab spoke to back in Bali, they all approved. They all signed off on a global vaccination card. So what the hell does that mean? And how are they going to? Is that a plastic card, or is it like Harari says, surveillance under the skin? And so anyway, these are the things that these people are talking about, and they're moving very, very rapidly to get us there. And the people that are involved in this World Economic Forum, they are the leaders of our nations right now, and their cabinets, people and their members of their cabinets, members of their ministers are members of the World Economic Forum. Remember, the World Economic Forum was started in 1971, so they didn't just start because of Trump. Okay, I want everybody to get out of their head that the world is a problem because the media has said Trump is the problem. That's bullshit, and that's what's got to stop in this country. Because if you start to allow yourself to be labeled, then you may as well stay at home. Don't allow anybody to define who you are. You define yourself. And for this World Economic Forum, I would love to be face to face with Klaus Schwab and tell him where to go, because this guy, if you listen to him, and I've listened to him quite a bit, I've listened to many of his speeches, I've read many of the things that he's written, and this is a guy who totally believes in the fourth industrial revolution, which I don't say tongue in cheek, is an extension of the Third Reich, and this is about global power and taking over the global system of government and running it with organizations like the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, the World Health Organization, the United Nations. These are all globalist organizations, and these people feel like they should be in charge of the world and running it, and not you and I.
Mike, how big a threat was Trump to those organizations?
Huge. I mean, absolutely. He was in the way. Trump was in the way, and I'm starting to really look deep, and the Twitter COVID files that have come out are staggering. It's terrific. It's really great journalistic work. But we knew this before. One of the vaccines, the patent was 2015. So how did COVID suddenly pop up in January, February of 2020 under the Trump regime when the patent was developed and given in 2015? That's 2015. Okay? And a patent doesn't just pop up over a 3-day weekend. A patent takes a lot of time to get to be a patent. So that means that particular vaccine was in play for a long time. So these people have been at this a long time. COVID was a very strategic, endeavor to basically do exactly what they did. Because remember, prior to the 2016 election, nobody was talking about mail-in ballots. Okay, nobody was talking about mail-in ballots. But the 2020 election and the 2022 election, everybody's talking about mail-in ballots. And why? Because mail-in ballots came into the fray because of COVID. Because we can't go and vote. We got to have.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair. People need to be able to vote.
Now, mail-in ballots have been around for a long time, though. So the state of Oregon, for example, has had mail-in ballots since like 1998. So there's been these models for the left to be able to see just how much deception and how much corruption, how much theft they can get away with in our elections. And so I want people to understand that these are real things. Get out of your head that these are conspiracy theories. These are not. And again, don't believe me. Go do your own research. And that's really what I want people to do, because I want people to understand that we are in a moment of peril. And I lived Psalm 23, right? Psalm 23 is, and I'll screw it up, but it says, "Yea, that I walk through the valley of the shadow of darkness, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." And I live that. I mean, I have lived that. I've lived that in different moments of my life, and I certainly lived that under the persecution of the guns of the Just Us Department and the Mueller investigation and an incredibly corrupt judge. So that's where the country is at, and the country has to understand that we are in that valley right now as a nation. And what we have to believe is we have to believe in each other, okay? Because believing that, that thou art with me, thou meaning, in the biblical sense is God Almighty, but thou is you, Grant, and me, and everybody else that's on here. It's at the community level. And thou is me getting involved in my community. That's why I say local action equals a national impact. We are not going to solve the problems in Washington, D.C. until we get our own houses in order in our own communities. I'm a big fan of something called the precinct strategy. That the Republican Party has over 200,000 unfilled volunteer positions, over 200,000 unfilled. Why? And that's because we have weak leadership running our party, the Democrats, I guarantee they're not unfilled, they're not volunteer. They pay them. But the Republican Party's lack of leadership to drive the local level, because they've taken it all to the top, right? And they love to raise money, and they're really good at it, and they don't do anything with it but stuff their own pockets. So thou in that psalm is you and I working together at the local level and doing what we can. I used to tell young officers and young enlisted when I was counseling them, I'd talk them through their strengths and weaknesses and all that. And I would say, what is it that you can control in your life? And it's fascinating conversations and answers that I would get when I asked that question. What is it that you can control in your life? And at the end of the day, you really can't control all that much, especially if you're in the military, you even have less control. But what you can control is the decision to get out of bed, the decision to go do something else, the decision to use your time in a different way, the decision to be, a good member of your family or a good member of your community, the decision to go to church. I mean, you can make decisions in your own local life and, to go do more. And that's what our country needs right now. We are, if I have,
well, they got to, Mike, they got to have the truth first, because I think a lot of people are just operating with, everything's a conspiracy or you're a conspiracy. I know they
Yeah.
describe you as a conspiracy theorist as a way to
Yeah.
negate you and make you look like a whack job. But I think these town forums, these open
Yeah.
places where we can have discourse, and I have a bunch of hands up. If you don't mind taking 4 or
Yeah.
5 questions from the
I'll
audience.
do some quick answers.
Okay. All right. Let's go Nick and then Prodigal.
Heat round.
General Flynn, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Just a quick question for you. So you were smeared early on, even by Barack Obama, obviously. And the funny thing is here, he didn't revoke your security clearance, did he?
No, that's a great point. He didn't. They fear here. So Nick, quickly from on that issue, they fear people like him. They fear what they cannot control. Okay. And I wasn't somebody that was going to, kiss his rear end. And I've never been that way. And bosses I've had, they know that. And people that I've worked around know that. They fear what they cannot control. And Barack Obama knew when he told President Trump, there's 2 people in the world that you've got to stay away from, Kim Jong-un of North Korea and General Mike Flynn. But he didn't take my clearance. So that's a great point. It's the first I've really heard it stated like that. So I'm going to use that in the future, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Hi, General Flynn. Been following your career for a long time. I want to thank you for your service. I have 2 quick questions. The first is, when Covington was your counsel, were you aware that Eric Holder was a partner at the firm, especially since it seems a lot of the illegal surveillance and wiretapping started under the Obama administration with the unmasking we saw by Samantha Power, etc. I was curious if you were aware of this or became aware that Eric Holder was there later.
He was a major partner at that firm, and I was completely aware. I think from my standpoint, because I really, other than lawyers on my staffs or that I work with in the military, I thought that the lawyers that I had were going to be professional and ethical, and it turned out that they were I don't necessarily want to say that they were either of those, but they certainly were incompetent. And I was aware. But the way that the law and lawyers are supposed to operate, they're supposed to be above reproach. Their ethics are supposed to be above reproach. And I just feel like if there was a mistake on choosing lawyers, and so if anybody that's on this thing, if you got questions about lawyers, you can come to me, because I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what I've learned about lawyers, and I have good ones now.
100%. We appreciate you, General Flynn. Let's go to Manda. Manda, go ahead.
Hi, I am so honored to be talking to you. So thank you for being here. And thank you, Grant, Nelson, and Elena for co-hosting and hosting the space. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to ask it. Are there any ways or mechanisms that could possibly see Donald J. Trump back in presidency before 2024?
No, there are not. A long shot, because I do think that they're getting ready they're setting up, the left right now is setting up Biden to be dumped. And I think we're going to see that. I really do. I just feel that right now in my gut.
Yeah, it feels like they're setting him up. For sure.
But no. The answer is no. I was out there before the speakership, before they chose that. I was saying, hey, we ought to consider Trump to be a speaker, because speaker didn't need to be an elected member of the House. So I didn't think that was going to happen, but I just wanted it to at least be out there, for people to consider. And of course, Matt Gaetz, who I really have a lot of time for now. I think he's as brave as they get. He talk about a person who stood up for this country. But no, the answer is no. What we have to do is we got to figure out how to get him back into office in 2024. And honestly, if we're going to go through another election like we just went through in 2022 and 2020, we got problems. So, and I don't mean to be, negative about it. I'm being real. So thank you, Manda.
We have problems because of what, Mike? Like what needs to change?
Our election system is broken. You're going to hear people saying we've got to get better at ballot harvesting. We got to get then the Democrats. We got to get better at mail-in ballots. You can't unless you want to get better at cheating. What we need to do is we need to have a system, and this is back to local action. So every county in this country can decide to run their elections by themselves. They don't need the state, or they don't need the federal government to dictate anything other than some policies. But once a county takes money from the state or takes money from the federal government, they are now owned by the state or by the federal government. And damn near every one of our 3,100 plus counties takes money from the federal and the state governments because it's money, right? They take it. They figure, we'll use it. And so we have things like machines. We have things like printers. We have all these horrific components of an election system that's completely broken. I mean, our election, if anybody on here thinks that our election system is not broken, God, man, I'll buy, and you can convince me of that. I'd jump off another 40-foot cliff. But our system is broken. A county can decide how to run their elections. They can do it on according to the Constitution. They can do it on one day, and they can do it paper ballot, and they can count by precinct in that county. And right now, we don't have that.
No, absolutely, guys. Absolutely. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, General Mike Flynn is in the building. True American patriot, blowing my mind right now. And if you guys are enjoying this interview as much as I am, if you aren't following General Flynn, scroll all the way to the top and make sure you are. Make sure you're following General Mike Flynn. Let's go to Jonathan Bang. Jonathan, let's talk about it.
Hey, good evening, General Flynn. Thank you for your service, your years of service. Wow. It's long. You did, wow, you served this country for quite some time. My question, though, is on the Independence Day in 2020, you pledged your allegiance to QAnon. What went into that decision to do something like that?
I pledged my allegiance to who?
QAnon.
I don't think I did that.
Okay, because there was an article.
See, that's a media. That's the way the media labels. The media labels. I actually think that's why I wrote this book, Fifth Generation Citizens Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare, because the media narrative is to get people to think that other people are something else. And what I've said about that particular issue is that I actually think that that's that's a government campaign. And it was created, I firmly believe, I believe it. It's a total speculation that, and I think I've said this in a couple other platforms, that I actually think that the CIA created that. I actually think that they do, because look at what they've done. They got all these people believing in some crazy crackpot thing. And, that's what I think. And that's why I'm like, I didn't pledge allegiance to anybody. I pledge allegiance to this country.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you there, Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan, he tried to stir it up on you a little bit, Mike. He comes in here trying to stir the soup.
You know how the left are, Mike. You know how they do. But let's go to
this guy Jonathan that just asked you that question. He's got more vaccines than you got stripes and stars.
That's a fact.
I feel sorry for him.
Absolutely.
Jonathan, that you had that, because that was a look at this. Do you know that So one other little piece of information on that. I think it's the CDC this past week released data that was hidden from the American public, and the data is 18 million more VAERS of the VAERS, the VAERS system, VAERS injuries, 18 million more that they kept hidden from the public, was released this past week. quietly. So I'm glad that, Jonathan, we talked about you and vaccines, because you reminded me of that particular piece of information. That's staggering. 18 million more injuries because of the vaccination, and they kept it hidden from us. I mean, I feel that's why I feel sad. And like I said, I have family members. So maybe one more question.
Absolutely. I mean, Elena, who do you want to go to?
Well, I see Ms. Barbara Majewski's hand, so let's let a woman end off with the final question. What do y'all say?
Let's talk about it.
I love it. First of all, I want to thank Grant, Elena, Nelson, and Jonathan Bing for opening up these rooms. I believe these spaces can change the course of the next election. We are just getting started in here, and it's leaving such a huge impact. So thank you. And General Flynn, thank you so much for your service. Your stories tonight were unbelievable. The one that most landed for me, of course, was your relationship with your wife. I really applaud you for that. And my question actually comes from my friend in the audience, from ex-Army Sergeant Bishop, and he wants to know, will you run as VP if asked?
Well, I'll tell you what. So first, Barbara, thank you, and thank you for recognizing my long relationship with my wife. I mean, and one of the things I'd tell anybody on this thing tonight, that the phrase that I learned a long time ago from my mom was, you got to like the person that you love. If you don't like the person that you love, and that love thing, man, goes away. That's a fleeting thing, right? You got to like the person you love. So for Sergeant Bishop, I don't know what my future will be or is. I just know that my path, my destiny was decided before I was born, and so whatever I find myself, in front of, I will do what's best for. I will do what's best for my faith. I'll do what's best for my country, and I'll do what's best for my family. And and I appreciate your service, Sergeant Bishop. And thanks for asking that, and thanks for even thinking about that. So let me just wrap up. I love this, actually. I didn't know what this was going to be. Grant and Nelson and Elena. People, those that aren't following me, please follow me at Gen Flynn. Please go to my website, generalflynn.com. I have a great bestseller out right now, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare, and it's explosive. I mean, I want everybody to get it. Send it to your, And so anyway, I just want to finish with that and just say thank you,
Mike,
and thanks to Elon. Thanks to Elon for doing this.
But Mike, thank you for your service. Look, I mean, you have a story to tell, and your story hopefully is going to be like is going to bring more truth to people. And I really, this isn't like you being on Fox News and talking to the, singing to the choir. You're singing to a lot of people right here that are looking for the truth.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you, and I look forward to doing more stuff with you in 2023 and getting more of my audience to know who you are. Everybody, please give Mike a big follow, and also send him a comment tonight. Tag him at Gen Flynn. That you enjoyed it. And if you got questions for him, send those to at Gen Flynn and see, maybe he gets around to answer it. I cannot thank you enough for the 2 hours you've given us, my friend. Thank you. Tell your wife thank you, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes, thank you. I just want to second that and say thank you for spending the last 2 hours. You have really given me the opportunity to understand your story, and thank you for shedding light on some things that I didn't know about that is definitely, like Barbara said, going to influence the next coming course of action for this country. So thank you for your service, and thank you for your time tonight. Grant, great interview. Thank you so much, General
God bless.
Flynn.
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface. We're just scratching the surface. There's so much more, and I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. God bless. God bless America.
God bless you, General Flynn. I mean, wow. Grant, Elena, true American patriot right there. General Flynn, I mean, I don't know about you guys, man, but my mind is completely blown. GC, I mean,
Nelson, seriously, did you flip out about the organization and the steps that they're taking on the implanting people, and how did light bulbs go off about maybe COVID being the the test period for the second
Right.
stage, which is how far can we go and what do we have to do to get compliance. I mean, I am like, wow.
It is absolutely. And you know the thing, Elena, if it was coming from a regular person, then, I'll be like, okay, whatever. But I mean, a general of his caliber giving us that information.
I mean, you
we got
heard in the first 10 minutes, literally it took him that long to spew out all of his credentials and how qualified and how knowledgeable to the inner depths of like the entire globe of what's going on with intelligence. So exactly what you're saying, he is 100% bona fide in his evaluations of what's happening. But like he said, don't trust him. Go and listen to that executive order. What was it? 14067. 14067. That's right.
I mean, listen, I'm completely mind struck, and I definitely feel like we should get. I mean, guys, if you're in the audience and you want to get on stage and talk about what you just heard from General Flynn, just hit the request button, and we'll definitely rotate you onto the stage. I know we have Sebastian Gorka on the stage right now. I mean, former deputy assistant to Trump. Sebastian, my brother, I mean, wow, that was a hell of an interview. I mean, what are your thoughts? Let's talk about it.
I'm not sure he knows to unmute his mic.
Can you guys hear me? You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm either Sebastian's trying to unmute his mic and doesn't realize it, or
I think he's off the stage now.
He's off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys, did you hear about there's some bad news coming out about Lisa Marie Presley? Have you guys heard?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just texted it to Nelson and Grant. Do you guys want to talk about it? That's a great point, Tara. I'm on the same page with you on that. Nelson?
Wow. No, I haven't heard about it.
Did you
haven't
read
at
your
all.
text?
I mean, Grant, Elena, you guys heard about this?
Yeah, I just heard she passed away from a heart attack.
What?
Yeah, she went into cardiac arrest earlier today. Her husband found her and administered CPR, and she was rushed to the hospital. So Priscilla Presley rushed there. They said they were working on her. They didn't provide any additional information, and it just came out that she died.
Wow.
Cardiac arrest. Let's just start there.
It's unbelievable the amounts of cardiac arrest and then everyone at the forefront of your mind, right? You're automatically thinking, was she vaccinated? Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're not wrong at all.
100%.
You aren't wrong.
She's only 54 years old. I think her birthday, I know her birthday was coming up February 1st. She would have been. I'm born on Elvis's birthday, and my brother's born on his daughter's birthday. So that's why I know that, but it's so sad. I just didn't know if you guys had talked about it. I know the title of the call is regarding vaccines. I can't say whether or not she was vaccinated, but it is automatically like the first thought, I think, with so much horrible news like cardiac arrest. And people are too young to be dying from this. It's insane.
She's 3 years younger than I am.
Grant, Grant and Elena, this goes back to, the way General Flynn described the vaccine, right? I mean, he called it a mass murder weapon.
That's what he called it, bro.
So listen, man, again, if this is a random person saying this, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But a general on that level saying that, I mean, he definitely knows a lot more than the average person in this room does. Yeah. Right. So
the other interesting thing that I thought was his transparency and authenticity and ease of which he presented. Just he wasn't trying to sell anything. He's not trying to make anything up. His first meeting with Trump and how they got along, and the whole World Health Organization and the Economic Forum. Like, he must have said 6 or 8 times, "Go look this up. Go look this up."
This is a decorated U.S. Army general, right? That was caught up in that entire Russian witch hunt. Ended up being prosecuted by the feds. Later, they moved to dismiss the charges because, they didn't feel like they had merit. And, he ended up having to resign from his position as national security advisor in order to deal with this. I mean, this man has been tortured, and he keeps on going every day. So he's highly respected.
To be fair, though, Nick, he did plead guilty.
Okay, but yes, but if you're charged by the federal government, there's a 97.6% chance that you're going to be convicted. And when you have a politically motivated charge such as this, I would take a plea deal too. Why would you not? Because you have a 97.6% chance of being thrown in prison.
Nick, that's the problem with leftists like Jonathan. And let's just throw this back to the really stupid question Jonathan asked him on the stage. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous, right? Jonathan, if you look, Elena and Grant,
if you look up in the nest, Nelson, I put it up there. Okay, there's proof. There was video of him doing it as well. I'm not going to ask Grant's guess. I'm not going to go after Grant's guess. Okay, but
thank you, Jonathan. At least not on the first time, maybe on
exactly. Yes, that's Grant's guess. I didn't want to call him out. There's video and everything else of it, so I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, but he.
I just want to say,
I can tell you that people are interested in this conversation because this is a big room, a lot of people in here. I mean, if he'd have stayed, this room would have just gotten bigger and bigger. So
I just want to say that if we're to acknowledge that this is a bioweapon, as General Flynn said, and I very much think it could be, then we all have to acknowledge that there is some very, very dark, nefarious forces at play at the highest level, and it would have to be at a global level because we're talking about World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum. This has to be acknowledged as a reality. Does it not?
100%.
$1,000,000%.
And he talked about that there being that it was a spiritual war and that it's very evil forces. This is a man that is very conservative in his lifestyle. I'm not talking about as a Democrat or Republican, but you can just hear you're not married that long.
So we'd have to go back to the JFK speech and acknowledge that there are elements within our own country, within our own government, that, really paint ourselves as the bad guys or a part of a cabal of bad guys. I mean, there's no other way to kind of reconcile this. At least I can't think of any unless someone else can make sense of this.
I spent 8 years up there. If you don't know this is not spiritual warfare when you've gone up there, then you don't know. And I think your average American understands that too. You don't have to have been there to have some special experience. But I'm just going to tell you, it is spiritual warfare. People get close to power. They get close to influence. As my former boss used to say, Thomas Massey used to say that pin that they wear, he calls it my precious. And you kind of realize that people start to feel, you can tell the golem gets in them over time when they hang out there for a while. They get to walk around all the barriers. They're treated special. They're given, everyone wants to see them in their office and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's really a spiritual thing that is going on in a negative way that goes on there because, people just get caught up in that darkness and they want to do something with it for their own benefit. And in sum total, that becomes a real problem.
Well, he did allude to it. He talked about the global elitists early on in the conversation. So this definitely made the short list in the conversation.
Just real quick for everybody in the audience, I want you to post one thing that General Flynn said here tonight that blew your mind, right? Bottom right corner chat feature, hit that chat feature and type one thing you picked up from him today that just absolutely blew your mind, right? And I think that'll be very interesting for us to pick some talking points to discuss on. But in the meantime, let's go to Freemason. I mean, Freemason, what did he say that just made you go crazy? Let's talk about it.
Listen, man, first of all, everything he said is validated. He talks about what I would call the rise of the Fourth Reich. There was a gentleman who was a conspiracy theorist named Jim Mars. He wrote a book called Rise of the Fourth Reich. And what it basically describes is that the mindset and the ideology didn't die with Hitler, that in fact they escaped and just infected and went into the rest of the world. And in fact, they found U-boats, Fat Boy, the bomb that we dropped was already built. This is all in the book. I don't know this to be true, but it definitely seems more along the lines that it's true than not. And when you think about the fact that maybe as America was the forefront of the winter of World War II, both us and Russia borrowed from the Nazis. I mean, these guys were going to space. In fact, Elon Musk's entire program owes its birth to the V2 rocket, even to this day. So having said that, the theory is that the mindset just infiltrated into what we know is free, and now the roosters come home, and we're not so free. And if it hadn't been for Elon Musk and people like Grant and Tara, yourself, taking these spaces and making them a modern-day Tea Party, we wouldn't know any of it. If someone asked General Flynn, is there a chance that we can fix it? I mean, I don't know. I can tell you one thing. Being a Freemason, we were part of the revolution. In fact, I told Tara in another call earlier that she was like a Ben Franklin, if you will. But the fact is that tyranny exists all over the place. I happen to be a member of some invite-only groups I won't say on here. If anyone wants to DM me, I'm more than happy to talk about it. But this stuff is very real, no question about it. And it is definitely 5G warfare. And it's pretty sick, man.
No, 100%, brother, 100%. Let's go to Tammy. Tammy, I mean, what are your thoughts? You know, how do you feel about the interview? And let's talk about it.
Oh, my God, it was amazing. General Flynn is always amazing. No matter what space he comes on, I always try to.
Tammy, it sounds like you're in a bathroom or something. You're very muffled.
Oh, hang on a second.
Okay,
Can you hear
all
me
right.
now?
Absolutely. Let's talk about it.
No, I absolutely love General Flynn. The financial thing kind of freaked me out, and I was just looking at Lisa Marie Presley's Twitter feed, and she appears that she was posting stuff about the COVID-19 back in April, so I'm pretty sure she was most likely vaccinated. And she traveled, and there was on her Twitter feed, she was also in China not very long ago, so I'm sure she was vaccinated. So it's just sad what's happening right now, and that people are still, of course, putting things under the Twitter feed saying, you know, people better not, you know, say this is the COVID shot and stuff like that. It's just so ridiculous. I mean, like, what's it going to take for people to wake up? But anyway,
I mean, it's at the point now where you can't even rule it out.
I know, right? It's ridiculous.
I mean, it has to be considered at this point, right?
Yep.
So it's crazy. Absolutely. As to why people like Jonathan Bing take that stance, Elena. I just don't understand it.
I don't understand it.
If I may, Tammy just looked at some tweets and came up to the conclusion that she was vaccinated. These tweets didn't say she was vaccinated, and then she said, "Yeah, we could pretty much say she was vaccinated."
She was traveling the world.
Okay. Once again, you cannot say that the woman's vaccinated. And that's all I want to say. That was just a little irresponsible. That's fine. She very well may have been.
But then, do you say she falsified her vaccine card?
The world she rolls in. I would guarantee you she's vaccinated.
Sir, on June 23rd of 2022, she went over and put her handprint on the Chinese theater walk and was putting posts about it. And how is she going to travel to China without being vaccinated?
The Chinese theater walk, are you talking about the one in Los Angeles? But I have a very good friend named Grant Cardone that traveled all around the world.
For her to go
he wasn't vaccinated.
To the Golden Globes the other night, for her to go to the recording studios, for her to do any TV on it with any studio, Disney still has COVID mandated for all actors, even children actors.
Thank you.
In Hollywood today. Okay, you cannot get on the set without showing All
Every studio,
studios.
not just Disney. But
Oh,
yes, go
sorry.
ahead, Grant. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Grant.
yeah. No, I don't like my wife correcting me. I don't mind some of these strange people trying that stuff, but
Hey, Grant,
you cannot walk on a studio anywhere in Hollywood without a vaccine card, a recent COVID shot. Like they're still freaked out over there. And she was at, if I'm not wrong, she was at the Golden Globes 2 nights or 3 nights ago.
Yep.
Grant, I remember you telling me you were in New York, and New York was like really strict about the vaccination
Yeah,
and the
I'm
mask.
not an
And
actor, bro.
but
I'm
remember,
not an
and you
actor.
couldn't. I know that, but you the restaurants, remember, and you couldn't go into the restaurant, and you were able to get in that restaurant without being vaccinated.
Yeah, man, I got in the restaurant, man, because I got that black card.
Okay, but just once again,
I
that's
got that
all I'm
black card, and
saying.
I got in
Swag.
Ben Franklin's.
That's a
They
fact,
said,
Amadi.
are you vaccinated? You got your vaccination card? I said, yes. He's like, oh, yeah, that looks like a vaccination card to me.
Let's talk about it.
There you go, and there you go.
But I'm
That's my
telling you,
point.
that's not how she would roll, okay? I'm telling you, I'll buy you dinner if she wasn't vaccinated.
All right, no problem.
And we'll know
Can
by
the
tomorrow.
cardiologist chime in about a cardiac arrest?
Yeah.
Man, Grant, he's back. Neverland Airways.
Well, I do want to talk about
Hey.
General Flynn, though. I do want to talk about Jen Flynn.
All right.
And Bernard, he said that the vaccine is a murder weapon. What do you have to say about that?
As you guys know, I listen to everything, and so I was very interested in everything that he had to say. I definitely am going to run this room back and vet all of the references that he made, because I've learned from experience, when you immediately dismiss someone based on a belief, you miss out on a lot of information. So being here, so like this room would be characterized as the anti-vax quack room by many of the people that I've been around, especially academics. But I've learned a lot of shit up in here, so I'm gonna definitely look it up.
Wait, don't tell me you went into Dr. Copeland's room earlier in the morning and now you're getting a different perspective about us. Is that what it is, Dr. Bedard?
Oh, did you not listen to that room?
I of course not. Why the hell am I going to listen to that room? Absolutely not.
They're fighting for my life, man. I like it better in here.
Okay, good.
I like it. Yo, listen, man. The thing about it is, like, I already told y'all, I'm the Grinch. But what I appreciate about this room is that at least I'm given the opportunity to express my point, and I feel like I'm respected for the most part in here. In there, I mean, like, they don't want to hear shit. I mean, like, it's all like reactionary and emotional. I'm like, bro, like, let's just look at the data. But it is what it is. So, anyways, I'm here.
100%. Let's go to Tap. Tap, let's talk about it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. And it's so funny because you were like, why doesn't everybody pick something General Michael Flynn said, tweet it out? And I did that before you said that, but I put the vaccine comment he put, and I put that it was a murder weapon, and it kicked me out of this space as soon as I pressed send on my tweet, which I thought was really interesting, number one. So I came back and I tweeted another something else that he put on there, that they fear what they can't control. So I just think that those are important things. And then real quickly, I love, number one, that he is so open about his faith on platforms like this. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and I do think that God has been very clear on what we do need to do. When everyone says that, we don't know what to do, is there still hope? God calls us as believers to turn back to him, humble ourselves, to pray, and that he will heal our land. And I think that that is so important to take note of, because as you guys are talking in here, I mean, you have the VP of Pfizer saying that what is going on is satanic. The VP of Pfizer. So you guys, we need to open our ears. We need to wake up. How do you fight a spiritual battle? You got to use spiritual weapons to fight a spiritual battle. We can't come in there and, use these little conversations or these tactics. I mean, I've been on Twitter Spaces talking about this stuff for the last year. So I'm so glad on this level now, that these conversations are happening. I think it's such a great way to go straight to the people, boots on the ground people. I'm a single mom. I live out here in Commie, California, and under Gavin Newsom's dictatorship over here, I'm a single mom. I've got 4 kids, and our school systems are just being taken over by just insane stuff over here. And I'm at my school board meetings. I'm on boots on the ground, and I'm fighting these things as a mom. I don't have a huge platform, but I'm doing what I can do on a local level to get involved and to fight this stuff. But I will tell you right now, it is demonic what is going on. The only way to fight this stuff.
Narrative. They control the narrative 100%, and you've got no shot. The information you get is blocked. It's filtered. They, the stuff with Pelosi came out today that we never heard. They're covered up for. They protect one another, and you're never going to hear the stuff that you need to hear. I think the interview with General Flynn was absolutely outstanding. He's a great American, and he's on the inside. He's seeing the stuff. And how do we get the message, the truth out? We don't want false narratives. We just want the truth to be out, Nelson.
100%, bro. 100%. And listen, you guys are going to call me a right wing, whatever, right? But the truth is the truth. The left, I mean, they're running this country like probably like the Soviet Union at this point in time.
Worse,
right? I mean, this is right. I mean, all the stuff that's being uncovered, especially with the Twitter files, right? It's mind blowing, right? This from censorship to, oh my God. I mean, it's ridiculous at this point.
Hey, Nelson, did Tammy get her question in? Because we got a bunch of people with hands up right now.
Tammy, Tammy's good.
You can take
Tammy's
me down.
good.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Tammy.
Well, Nathan,
thank you guys. I'm going to go too.
Appreciate you, Tap. But yeah, man, it's just absolutely crazy. Let's go to Nathan. Nathan, jump in.
Yeah, thanks for having me up, guys. Grant, been a long-time follower. I'm a veteran myself, and when I heard Jonathan posted the QAnon thing up in the nest for Flynn, I went and checked it out. And when I listened to it, I literally started laughing because I'm a veteran, and I'm like, this is really close to the oath of enlistment that he's saying. It's slightly like a modified version, I guess, but it's very, very close to it. So I don't know how in the world that would relate in any way to QAnon. But I'm glad he dismissed it anyways.
Thank you for your service.
100%.
Thank you, brother.
Let's go to Jake. Jake, my man, let's go.
What's up, Nelson? Hey, thanks for having me back. But, listening to him, like you said earlier, if it was just John Doe out here just saying this, that's one thing. But we have a general like that, of that stature saying these things. And, somebody like that asks these super important questions, it's a murder weapon. People are dying from this thing, which is true. Probably not 100% of the people, but you have to ask as a group, and this is a great group to have this discussion with, is when do we start asking the serious, important questions and having the serious, important conversations, because we can have them now and not have to worry about such censorship problems as much as we did, say, last year. These are the things I lost my accounts for. I lost 4 accounts for talking about this stuff for the last 3 years. I lost 600,000 followers. And now we've got General Flynn and many other people here saying these things that we've been saying and trying to have conversations about. The question that comes to mind for me is that if it seems like it's a them against us sort of deal. And if that is my perception, then I have to ask myself, then who is the enemy here? And if it's us, why? I don't understand. I want to know the answer to that question.
Very valid question indeed, my brother. Trust me.
Nelson, we just want the data. We just want the data. Real data.
100%.
I just want the answers, man. It will. I just want the answers, but I want it reasonably, I want it logically, and I want it respectfully given to me. None of this debate back and forth. Oh, you're super right wing, super left wing. You're this, you're that. None of that stuff. You should have the ability to do what's best for you and your personal situation without that judgment. And we need to have those conversations without, I've had people literally threaten to come and remove my head from my body because I've had these conversations because it upsets somebody so much. And I'm just trying to have dialogue, we need to have these important conversations, but do it the right way.
Yeah. Hey guys, is Bernard still in here?
Dr. Bernard,
because
so.
Jeff Beck died yesterday of meningitis, and supposedly that was a disease that had been eradicated years ago. I don't know about these diseases, but I do know that it's not too soon to ask the question: was she vaccinated? Why wouldn't you? You when you hear of hundreds of kids falling over, we saw this on football 2 weeks ago. Like, I'm not rushing to judgment. I'm not being disrespectful to anyone. I'm just asking. My dad died of heart complications.
Well, I think if the government has the right to ask everyone if they're all vaccinated for work and for whatever, we should be able to ask if people who have been dying are vaccinated.
Grant, I go back to the basic question: who killed Kennedy? And it's I know it's a different subject, but it's not. If we're still 60 years later, we don't have the answer, but they do. We got to start there and start saying, you're withholding the information for 40 or 50 years. Why? You're our government, and they're going to withhold this information for 40 or 50 years. And all the people that are on this stage saying, I told you so, we knew it, we're going to be dead. And so why not release the information now? If people screwed up, let's hold them to account. But more importantly, let's get the people that are alive right now help if there is help. Let's start seeking an antidote to the vax if it's in fact problematic.
Well, what do you guys think about what General Flynn said in regards to the Democratic Party essentially becoming a Marxist socialist party? What do you guys think about that?
He's right.
Not very much.
He's not wrong.
Talk about it, Jake, and I'll bounce it back to Jonathan.
I don't know the medical terminology. I don't know the science. My finger's on the pulse of social media and culture, and that's where my expertise is at. And it looks like, as from what I can see over time, things kind of condense and monopolize. And look at the medical industry, for example. Look at the farming industry and how monopolized that has gotten over the last 100 years, and how important those things are. And this is the same thing. Countries are getting so populous now and becoming so big that you have to monopolize and squeeze everything into one. And one of the questions that I'd love an answer to is, why are we pushing things like getting rid of gas stoves? Why are we pushing all of these protected speech because it's hurtful to people? Why are we talking about 15-minute cities, and why all this control over people all of a sudden in the last 3 years? Why this explosion of this throughout this timeline?
No, absolutely. I mean, Jonathan, what are your thoughts? Let's talk about it.
The Democrat Party is not becoming a socialist party. It's a party of freedom. When you look at the Republicans right now, everyone says, "Hey, it's what about meism? What about meism?" Okay, we were in a pandemic. All right, it's what about the country? It's what about your fellow American? And getting through this together, because we didn't know what's going to go. I feel bad because if we have, I don't know, if Ebola comes down the pike or something as deadly as smallpox come down the pike, it's the rhetoric that came from the right, and I hate to do it that way.
Hey,
that
freedom of choice, right? Remember, you're pro-choice. Your Democrats are pro-choice. Pro-choice too. Okay, when it comes to taking a vaccine, pro-choice, brother.
No, guess what? It was choice, bro. It was choice. Okay.
Yeah, lose your job, lose your life, lose everything. Come on, man.
Brian, guess what, Brian? You didn't. Once again, Go get
And by the
yourself
way,
a
you
sandwich
lost that
board.
when all those people got to be reinstated and be repaid because the government did them wrong. And New York State, they got to rehire everybody, give them back pay because the government, your democratic communist government did them wrong.
First of all, that's not true. First and foremost, okay.
It is true in New York State. I can't speak for
Okay,
the country.
so because you're putting it out there like it's like that.
New York
across the
State's a
country.
democratic state. It's a communist state, and the communists lost in New York, buddy.
Okay, but Brian, once again, like I said,
all those pro-choice people in New York State lost.
Guess what? If your employer asks you to do something, you don't do it. Guess what? That's insubordination, especially if they're following a government ruling or some sort of mandate. So if those people that lost their job, I feel bad for them. But that was the policy at the time.
Hey, John,
that was the policy at the time. Ben Stock.
If your employer asks you to put something in your body that you don't want to put in your body that's potentially toxic and you can be fired. I think OSHA would have a problem.
Brian, they've been doing that with the flu vaccine. They've been doing it.
My employer never required me to have the flu, buddy.
Okay. Well, once again, you were never in a pandemic. You were never in a pandemic, Brian. You were never, and that's the part that I get what you're saying, but during extraordinary times, we need extraordinary measures. Guess what? We got out of this because of the vaccinated. Because people went out. 70% of the population got vaccinated. Okay, and we got out of this. Now everyone that didn't get vaccinated is looking back and saying, "Oh, we didn't need to do it because we didn't get vaccinated." That's a revisionist history, and you guys are just dismissing all the people that did vaccinated.
Freedom of choice is a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah, but guys,
free will is a bitch.
This is beyond the vaccination at this point. I mean, am I the only one that listens to everything General Flynn shared on his stage? I mean, the vaccine is one of the worries, yeah, but I mean, this is so much bigger than that. And Jonathan, I mean, listen, for him to say the Democratic Party is essentially a Marxist socialist party, and going back to the start of the interview, he's actually a registered Democrat. No, no.
So, yep.
Well, 1 second, Jonathan. He said that on his stage. I know. Sometimes you're hard of hearing, but he did say that on his stage. So
did he work for Obama?
Thank you very much, Ben Stock. Thank you very much for pointing that out. So, Jonathan, for a general on that level, 1 second, Ben Stock. Okay, 1 second. Jesus Christ. So for him to have made that observation and come to that conclusion, having worked for both parties, tells you something, Jonathan Bing. It tells you that you don't know anything about what's really going on behind the scenes. So, if I were you, Jonathan, I'll take what he said and I'll go to bed tonight thinking about what he said and the possibility of it being true. I mean, that's just what I'm saying, right? Because it's not every day you get to talk to a general on that level. You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'll throw it back to you to get your thoughts on that. Let's talk about it. Yeah, well, he's a registered Democrat up until recently, all right? And he's no longer a registered Democrat. I just wanted to put that out there because you just say he's a registered Democrat. He's
that party put him in jail,
so, okay, Ben, stop.
Well, there's a reason he's not a registered Democrat. You know why, don't you, Jonathan?
Go ahead.
Because almost all Democrats are damn leftists, and he's not. Bam. And I'm telling you that, Matt, what do you think Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss are doing this thing for? Like, they're not conservatives. They actually just still believe in the Constitution and crap. The Democrat Party does not believe in the Constitution under any circumstances anymore. They only believe about power. It's all about power. It's all about getting what they want and making sure that they get their fine stock trades going well. So that's why they run the bills up so that they can get the trades going. Dude, they're a leftist party. Not absolutely every one of them are leftists, but it's a leftist party, and that's why.
Didn't Trump,
gotcha, bitch.
Didn't Trump run a deficit up more than anyone? I mean, let's be real.
Bitch.
Hey,
let's be real.
Hey, dude, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt he did. I publicly chastised it, but I'm telling you, man, there was more freedom coming out of the Trump administration than even the Bush administration, who, by the way, doubled the national debt also. Barack Obama doubled it. And the amazing thing is the best economy that we had is the last two presidents that are most accused of doing extramarital affairs and stuff. Bill Clinton and Donald Trump had a good, but see, Clinton had to follow what Newt Gingrich was doing because they cornered him because they had the power and they did what was right. Donald Trump did what was right in so many areas. He just did it and took care of it and worked with the Congress. I was working on Capitol Hill at the time. He was working with the Congress to try to do things. He got betrayed by Republicans. I totally get it. The Republican Party can be crappy too. Donald Trump, even with his weaknesses like that, is much better.
Excuse me 1 second. I just got a text from General Flynn. He says, "Hey, I want to do that again soon. Now that I know what it is, there are so many issues to address. You, Nelson, and Elena did a great job hosting. That dude, Jonathan, not so much."
Roasted.
Tell him thank you.
Jonathan. Send Bing to Paul Pelosi's house.
And hey, Tara, I'm sorry you got moved down earlier, buddy.
No worries. No, not at all. I was in the car, and then Tara, I know a lot of people were requesting. No worries at all.
Also, check your DMs. I sent you a DM, Tara.
I got it, and I responded to you, Miss Beautiful Elena. I followed you. I thought I followed you a long time ago, so I don't know how I wasn't already following you, but I followed you again. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. No, the space was incredible, but then when I came up as speaker, Grant, I couldn't hear you. So I thought there was like radio silence. So I went to respond and say something and then realized that you were unmuted, but I just couldn't hear you. So I didn't want to step all over you. So it's actually better now because I can hear you now. I had to reset my phone and do some things, clear the cache and stuff for Twitter. So it's working now. Yay.
Well, thank you, Tara. And then when this guy has a good experience and Roger Stone had a good experience here, this should open it up to some other people that might know something. And again, like what I told him, I said, you could go on Fox, bro. It's the same audience you guys have been talking to. I told 45 this, by the way. I said, look, that's why your rallies worked. You got to talk to people that were interested and curious about you. And you can't, I don't always.
And to back your point, Grant, they get a little more than that 5-minute little segment on Fox.
Yeah, exactly. They get to tell a story. You get to ask questions, and people get to start feeling a connection. I mean, Jonathan, when you heard him talk about 45, the way he did, about his acumen about the world affairs, did you not like, oh, wow, that kind of surprised me?
Yeah, that totally surprised me because I thought he was a bungling idiot, and that he just, I didn't think he's taking the presidency run serious because I didn't expect him to be elected. I know he didn't expect to be elected. So, because he didn't even have a transition team in place. So, when I heard that, I was a bit surprised. You're right.
He wouldn't have run if he didn't want to win. He's a winner. Winners expect to win. They don't play games they can't win. That's what.
So how come he didn't have a transition team in place?
Because he was too busy trying to win. You don't need a transition place until you win. A team until you win. All efforts were on winning. That's why, John. Everything was on winning. And you know what? He won, and we won, and you won. How's your mortgage business doing right now with the new bumbling idiot that's in there? How's it going? How's the economy doing? How's the real estate business going? How's gas prices? How's prices of everything else? You pretend, you liberals pretend to be concerned about the poor. Who's getting hosed the worst right now? The poor. The poor. So don't give me your nonsense. If you tax Grant Cardone an extra 10%, 20%, million, $10 million, $20 million, it ain't going to help a damn person, man. It ain't going to help a damn person. It's the economy, stupid. And then you start talking about treason, and then Biden's got all that stuff in the garage with the Corvette, the gas-guzzling V8 Corvette. You can't make this shit up, man. And you guys still sit there and bang the broken, stupid drum. There's no hope for you guys. I got to tell you, there's no hope. Go to Russia.
I have a genuine question for Jonathan, if you guys don't mind, just really quick. Let's talk about it. Just in regard to Biden and the way that now it seems the media is quickly turning on him and throwing him under the bus in regard to documents that were found several months ago. And now all of a sudden it's becoming ammo against Biden, which is extremely suspect, the timing of that. If the media tells you not to like Biden, are you going to, change your stance? Will you just go whichever way the wind blows, or will you stay true to Biden to the end?
Tara, I'm true to the truth. And when I first found out about those documents, I said Biden needs to be held accountable because we should not have two sets of standards, one for Trump, one for Biden. I think it needs to be looked at. And to be honest with you, I said that very loudly that I was disappointed that this happened prior to the election. And even though I believe had this come out before the election, it would have. I think that the House would have had a wider margin, and that the GOP probably would have got the Senate back. And I don't like that, but it is what it is. So I was very vocal about that. So it's not about Biden, and that's what you guys get. It's not about Biden. It's about our country. It's about the truth. Okay. And so it's never been about Biden. It's been about making sure and ensuring that everyone, is playing by the rules, at least on the surface, they should be playing by the rules. So I'm not here. Biden should get the same treatment Trump got. But here's the thing, Tara. I've since learned that Biden did get the same treatment that Trump got. Okay. Because, the rules is that they don't, announce anything, 90 days or 120 days before the election. Okay. So, when you look at it in that, from that lens, I'm like, okay, it's a bit more palatable. But, once again, I truly believe that, the fact that they waited till after the election and after that the new Congress, was sworn in, that wasn't accidental, but I understand why. But it's a totally different thing than what Trump did. Biden people turned the documents in as soon as they found them. They had to go take the documents from Trump.
No,
So
he was in the process of negotiating with the Department of Justice.
I'm not saying, hold on,
That's a fact.
Brian,
That's
I'm
fact,
almost
man.
done.
No, don't.
Brian,
You
I'm
can't
almost
cap here,
done.
man.
Ben Stuck,
Stop
I'm almost
capping.
done. Ben Stuck, I'm almost done. What I will say is Biden's team turned the documents in right away. Okay? Now, and that's
6 years later is right away.
He's had him for 10
8
years.
years later.
How many years has he had him for?
No, I agree.
7 years.
No, I agree. I said when his team found him, they turned him in right away.
When he found him, what do you mean? You don't think he knew he had him?
You know what, Grant? If Biden knew, if we can prove that Biden knew that those documents were there, Biden needs to be held accountable. This is not. He definitely needs to be held accountable and persecuted to the fullest extent of the law, given the same treatment that Donald Trump was getting.
But I don't think.
And I said that from the very beginning.
I don't think he gets the same treatment as Donald Trump because I don't think a vice president has the right to have any of that stuff, does he? Under any conditions?
None.
That's debatable.
Hillary had none.
Hillary was a secretary of state.
Yeah, she had none. He has the same right that she had. None. Zero.
Brian, we heard something different. Nelson and I was on a different space earlier. We heard something quite different, possibly.
She had classified national security information on her private servers in her backyard in Chappaqua, New York.
By the way,
she also had classified information.
To clarify,
she had the classified information on Wiener's laptop. No business being in either place. And Tira said, well, Wiener's wife was Huma Abedin, her personal secretary. What the hell does that have to do with Wiener, who was not allowed to have that information, nor was she able to have that information on a private laptop?
Brian, there are emails. They weren't classified. They weren't classified information in emails.
They flip their nose at the law. It's the same thing as Pelosi. This guy's dirty,
absolutely
filthy. He got caught, and I don't care about the guy hanging out with a dude. I don't care about the false police report. What I care about is the military of the press that circles around the wagons to protect these guys from things that none of us would have the protection on. If Trump was hanging out with a dude in his house, do you think he'd have been accorded the same cover up?
100%.
And Nelson, we were in rooms where the Tiras of the world sat there and said, no, Paul Pelosi did this. It makes perfect sense. Why the guy was in the house for 20 minutes. Why Pelosi said initially to the place, he's my friend.
We got like 5 hands up, Brian.
Absolutely.
I wish we could do. I wish we had more people to be able to speak here, and people could just ram and
Yeah. Yeah, guys, let's cycle through the hands on the stage. So we have like 41 requests, and then we'll bounce it back. But let's go to Cheryl. Cheryl, let's talk about it.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
I'm
so sorry. I'm so sad that I missed the Flynn spaces. But
Cheryl, I announce this every single night. You need to be following Grant. You need to have the notifications on so you get an alert.
I do, but you know what? I ventured out tonight and actually did my own space for the first time. So I missed it.
Man, you should have scheduled that. Come on, man.
I know. It was bad scheduling. But I have a question actually is Jim still here? Or did he leave?
Jim should,
maybe Brian can answer this question. I would address Jonathan, but I'm just not in the mood for that tonight. But my question is, I was, during my space, we were talking about what can we do, as a nation to sort of, at least, make sure that the right people are elected and, be peaceful, of course. And someone mentioned that I had totally forgotten about that the Sergeant of Arms has a lot of power. So we can actually petition, via, our state, per state, to petition the Sergeant of Arms to have certain members arrested or removed. And this person didn't really have all the background and I didn't have time to go research it. So I'm wondering if that's a valid, solution to sort of maybe hopefully get some of these people to be held accountable for what they've done. So apparently you can do it via a petition.
I don't know anything about the Sergeant at Arms. Does anybody here know what?
And if not, I'm sad that Jim left. I'm sure Jim would have been able to answer this. So if not, it's just something to think about, that it's an actual tactic that we are afforded as Americans.
100%.
So that might be something to look into. But I would love to be on the next. I will definitely be on the next spaces with General Flynn and your others. I know I'm horrible.
You're a damn traitor.
You goddamn right.
I actually met him briefly downtown once, so just amazing. So anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
Traitor.
I am so far from a traitor.
Cheryl, you're recommending that the Sergeant at Arms arrest and remove members of Congress.
Here we go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So basically, you want an insurrection again.
Oh, good
I think
Lord,
she
Jonathan.
said she wasn't actually going to talk to you tonight, Jonathan, and I'm about to go to bed. I have a 2-year-old son here at home, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but goddamn.
Oh, let's talk about it.
So sorry. We got to get back to General
crazy.
Flynn, what he was saying. This is a spiritual war. I'm not up for arguing tonight. I'm sitting here, my heart's racing, guys.
Julie.
Stop.
Man, Grant, don't you love it when the women hand it over to
I'm not trying to be rude, but goddamn. Can I just please say this? He was saying
Jump in. Let's talk about it.
Man, that was the biggest psyop because of the social system to gather all that information about people. Look at the Twitter files. It's a bigger picture than just the RICO with Donald Trump. If you think about everyone that has been labeled as a domestic terrorist and how they're trying to silence and blacklist assholes like me, because I'm not afraid to speak up. They're afraid of what they can't control. Nobody could control me shutting my mouth right now. That's what they're afraid of. It's spiritual war. It's a witch hunt. And with that, I'm going to stop.
Man, fired up. Absolutely. We appreciate you, Julie. Thank you for
Jonathan,
jumping
for
in.
giving me that fire because, man, you guys have been going all night, keeping me up for about an hour and a half. I've been listening since Mike was here, and he's been following me, and I'm not here to brag or boast, but damn, we need the world to change, and I'm not going to sit by while the world fucking burns.
Let's talk about it.
No, I love you, Julie. I love it, man. I want both sides to be heard. I want us to all leave here with at least an understanding. We don't have to agree, but at least an understanding of what we're
That's what I'm saying. We can't be arguing about this. Why are we here together,
That's the problem. That's the problem. And it comes from Jonathan's people. But we appreciate you, Julie.
No,
right?
No. Don't be pointing fingers, y'all. Please, when I go to bed, I don't want this room to go to shit because I can't be here to moderate. Good night.
Good night. Love you. Absolutely. Guys, so if you don't want to be like Cheryl, right? She messed up tonight. She came in late. You need to be following GC. I mean, we had Robert Kennedy yesterday. I'm pretty sure some of you missed that. Make sure you
I
have the
missed it. I
alerts
was so
on.
mad. I was so mad I missed that. And I do have alerts on for Grant, but Twitter's funky
Let's
sometimes.
go.
Sorry, Nelson. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I mean, you're the queen of spaces. You can cut me off anytime, man. Let's talk about it. But guys, it's very important, right? I know tomorrow, Ryan Serhant, probably one of the biggest agents in the United States, is going to be live here on Twitter. And it's going to be absolutely insane. I mean, Grant's bringing Donald Trump Jr. I believe that's on the 19th. Not so sure. But I mean, CEO of Rumble. We had Robert Kennedy yesterday. We've had Roger Stone, Robert Malone, Kevin O'Leary, Pat Carroll. List goes on and on and on and on. Lara Trump as well, man. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, guys, you need to be following GC at the very least, and you need to have your alerts on. So that way, when the room's open, boom, you get an alert on your phone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 10X Talks. Matter of fact, do this right now. Let's get these replays to spread out there when this room is done so people can listen to General Mike Flynn. Hit that chat feature at the bottom right corner, retweet the space, and put a hashtag 10X Talks. Because this is the 10X Talks movement, man. Let's go. Let me go to phenomenology. Let's talk about it.
Hey guys, thanks for this. I sadly only got the last 5 minutes of General Flynn, but it was just amazing to hear him speak. And I was hoping that he could hear this, but since part of the topic is Trump, and one of the ladies asked him bravely, "Do you think there's any way that Trump could get back in office in 2020 before 2024?" And he answered honestly, and that no. But there were a lot of people looking at other things, like we were hoping that some of the election integrity measures would go differently. Then there was the Brunson case where many people thought that maybe Trump would be able to be reinstalled. And then when Trump announced that superhero message, remember, on Truth, everyone was just like freaking out. They were like, all of MAGA, all of America First was like, what is he going to announce? And when it was the NFT, they were just really upset. And if you think about why, it's because they were all hoping that there was going to be some remedy for us to get out of this. And while there's not a remedy for us to get out of it now, if we look to our state's constitution and our state's legislators with regard to 2024, there is a remedy. So I spent some time talking with Leo D'Onofrio, who is he's like what Mark Elias is to the Democrats. And I wish they used him more, but he's been doing a lot of consulting to us here in the stuff that's happening in Maricopa. Well, what he reminded us of, and what some of the local, the local Freedom Caucus here in Arizona, the state Freedom Caucus, is looking at, is that if you remember, we vote for all of our, our governor, our secretary of state, and everything like that. But we have the Electoral College for our president, and how it really works in the Constitution. And this has been backed up by Supreme Court cases, most recently Bush versus Gore in 2020. Remember when there was that debate about who really won? Well, Gore really won the popular vote, but it ended up going to Bush. Why? Because Florida gave the electors to Bush. And why did they do that? Because it is the legislators that have plenary power, meaning absolute power, to choose the electors. So when you vote in your state, if you vote for all Republican legislatures, they have the plenary power, the absolute power to choose electors for the Republican candidate for president, just like the Democrats do. Now, that is why people like Jamie Raskin and others are trying to push so hard for us to get rid of our Electoral College. And the reason is because they know this. If our state legislators in red states, where there's red majority of senators, state senators, and state congressmen, that they could immediately choose the electors for the Republican candidate. And that is our path. It is a complete constitutional legal path for us to win the presidency. So
100%. Absolutely.
So I urge everyone to please talk to your state legislators, especially if you have a Freedom Caucus. Arizona is setting the way, but more and more of the state America First people are forming these, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a loophole. It is actually the law that we don't vote for the president. We vote for our state legislators, and then they select the state electors. So we could easily just
100%.
choose them, and we could end this nightmare for 2024.
100%. 100%. Appreciate your phenomenology. Let's go to Truman. Truman, what's going on, my brother?
Hey, good evening, guys. Listen, just to make it quick for you, I want to thank you and your crew for doing what you guys have been doing. It's hard to put in words how much it's appreciated. It's bringing an opportunity for everybody to talk things through. So mad shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for bringing the people that you're bringing. It's been an honor. And then I just can't get my head wrapped around the fact that a former U.S. National Security Advisor and former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency said the things that he said tonight. Cannot thank General Flynn enough. That is just mind-bending that he said the things that he did, that there's people that will not believe what he said, and that even the people that want to believe it can't even wrap their heads around it. It's mind-bending. Thank you, guys. You're amazing.
I appreciate you, Truman. I mean, listen, GC's bringing the big wigs, right? GC setting this up. And, we just play our part and, make the show happen, curate the show. So 100%, G, definitely appreciate you bringing all these guys to Twitter Spaces. It's crazy. I mean, and it's proximity to, individuals that, majority of people in this room wouldn't have proximity to. So it's absolutely amazing what we're able to do here on Twitter. It's absolutely crazy. And looking forward to a great 2023 on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, Nelson, real quick, and we'll probably go ahead and land here in a second, but I posted a tweet up top, halt the vaccine now. It's time to research the connection between vaccine and cardiac arrest before one more person dies. I know I'm going to get slammed, a lot of hate, people saying, oh, it's too soon, shouldn't have done that. Lisa just died tonight, passed today. It's time that we halt this vaccine. They're going to keep pushing it and pressing it unless the people stand up. Every time you guys stand up, when you got tired of the mandates, they stopped and dropped the mandates. When you got tired of the damn masks, they stopped them and dropped them. If you guys stand up, whether the timing's good or bad, the timing's now. It's already been too long. Too many people have been hurt by this. And what does it hurt? COVID's not around right now. So why not just halt this thing, do some research. So if you guys could retweet or share that, get it out there, share it or don't share it, whatever. I appreciate the support. Nelson, I know we got a bunch of hands up, man, but we've been here a couple hours already, right? So what do you say?
So we got Steve, Nicole, Storm, Dan. We got 5. I mean, you want to do quick popcorn?
Okay, popcorn.
Boom. Steve, let's go.
Hey, I wanted to just say thanks, Grant and Nelson and you guys for bringing him on. I served in the military for a very long time, and I was in a leadership team. So kind of get perspective on where he's at. That's unique to get access to an individual like him. The circles he runs around in are very small. And as a general, even at his level, you're either invited or you're not. And expectations are kind of crazy too. So, I mean, the information that he carried, that's incredible. And if someone doubts it he did the right thing by saying research what he's talking about, and he gave good references, which that's not common for officers. But I think overall to be able to interview a guy like him, to come on Twitter Spaces and divulge what his experience, his credentials, that's not common. I've worked with 2 stars, I've been around 3 stars, and I've been associated with 4-star generals, and they do not do kind of what he does. And at that level, it's an expectation of service. I think in many occasions they serve at the pleasure of their boss. They could be gone at any day. There's no guarantee he could serve. He would have made it as far as he did as an officer. There's a certain level of access that he has that most people never hear about. And it's interesting, too, when you listen to his names of, like, the World Economic Forum, he brings up some names. Unless you're digging into that information and you're seeking it out, those names are not common. They're not readily available. And to have him disclose it out that's pretty awesome. I mean, you think think of his access.
Yo, man, where you come from, man? What's popcorn sound like?
Popcorn, baby.
Pop, 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 pop,
Pop,
pop,
pop,
pop,
pop,
pop.
pop.
Let's go, let's
Yeah.
go, let's go.
So I guess I don't really have a question for him. I'm just proud that he led the Army and he was where he was at. And I just wanted to say thank you guys, because having been in the world that I walked in for many years, I can tell you this is a real rarity. So thank you, Grant. Thank you, Nelson. He was an awesome guy, and I just appreciate being able to leave a comment. But yeah, follow him. I just did a little while ago. Thanks for that. And it was just a pleasure to be a part of this forum.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
No, we appreciate you, my brother.
Appreciate your service, Steve, man. You know, I brought you up here. You know, I love you, brother.
I love you too, Grant. Followed you for a long time. I love all you guys. It's a great room. Your talks are crazy good, and I just wanted you all to understand that it's not. He doesn't just do that.
You're
for
a
anybody.
true,
So
you're a true American patriot, my brother. I'll take you over Jonathan Bing any day, my brother. 100%.
Love you guys.
Thank you, man. Absolutely. Let's go to Nicole. Quick popcorn. By the way, I have a link up top. Lisa Marie Presley, dead. We're going to be talking about it in about 10 minutes. Link is up top. Nicole, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's popcorn about it.
I never expected you to accept my request, so I've got a million things I want to talk about, and all things.
Oh, hell no. Can we reduce it to one?
We're going to reduce it. Let's talk about General Flynn. I have been following General Flynn since before he was unsilenced, before his court case was ever over. And I'm really surprised at how many people in this space didn't know about General Flynn or hadn't followed him. This man, I cannot say enough about this man. Jonathan, I hope that you will follow General Flynn. I hope that you will go back through his tweets. He was suspended 2 years ago or more. Imagine how much he has said since then. I can tell you, comes from a very long line of Democrat family. They vote Democrat. He voted Democrat all his life, just like Donald Trump and just like myself. I voted Republican when Donald Trump ran for office. Democrat all my life before that. Will never vote Democrat again. But General Flynn, I can assure you, everything that he says is the truth. On the question that Jonathan raised, that he pled guilty, because they broke him. They broke him
100%.
Financially of every single dime that he had. I contributed to his defense fund. So the man is legit. Are you aware of his brother? Did he talk about his brother? I joined late because I didn't have live notifications on for Grant.
But now you do, right? Of course. Boom. You're never going to miss it again. Let's talk about it. Okay. Nicole, appreciate you, man. Listen, can't wait to see you in the next. Like Grant said, General Flynn is down to come back in here. So I'm pretty sure Grant's going to set it up. It's going to be big. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's got so much more to talk about. I follow him. He follows me. His whole family follows me. They are amazing
Let's
people.
Go.
His brother is a 4-star general. I mean, General Flynn would not be speaking these words to jeopardize his brother's career if it were not true.
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. Appreciate you, Nicole. Thank you very much. Let's go. Mr. Storm, how you doing today, man? Let's go.
Hey, excellent. I think Grant did an excellent job. Lena's question was spot on. I got triggered because of Jonathan, but if I had to sum this up, January 6th was a cocktail party. If 1.5 million people showed up, wait till you see 12.5 million armed veterans. You know, I'll just sum it up there. But honor and conviction, that's a man that would not betray this country or his oath. He wouldn't be a traitor like Pence. If Trump would have selected that man, he would not have turned his back on January 6th. There would have been an investigation into the election fraud. And that's all I got to say, Nelson. Great job.
My brother, man. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you. And absolutely. Brian, let's talk about it.
Hey, guys. Thanks for bringing me up. I really appreciate it. I'd also like to say, thanks for hosting this space. This is truly incredible. I still can't believe I just heard General Flynn speak. I'm a Navy veteran myself, and he has my utmost respect. There's quite a bit that I learned about him tonight that really I was ignorant about. So that was great to have that opportunity. I wanted to really quick just touch on the World Economic Forum. I had my revelation when Fauci's emails were subpoenaed through the Freedom of Information Act. And I want to say that was approximately like Q2 2021, somewhere in that neighborhood. Well, I just felt something was off. I don't know a lot. We've been talking about a spiritual warfare. I have just felt, I've learned to trust my gut over the years, and, I've kind of renamed my gut to kind of like the Holy Spirit. And it's just, I can't explain it, but something has really been drawing me towards like the truth, and something is off. So when Fauci's emails came out, I was expecting like accountability immediately. I was expecting the media to pick it up, and it was nothing but crickets, and I was stunned. And I learned very quickly that no one is coming to rescue me. No one's coming to rescue us. It's up to me to do my part and spread the word. So I started doing my research, and I came across Klaus Schwab's COVID-19 and the Great Reset. And that's kind of my main point, why I wanted to be brought up. I just wanted to spread the word. I took notes. I went through and read that and marked off everything that seemed to like, be very pertinent for the public to know, to kind of paint a picture of what the agenda is. And so I took notes and I uploaded to a Google Drive. And so I have it pinned on my my Twitter homepage. So if anyone would like to, they don't want to go through the horror of reading the entire book, I totally understand. Everyone has lives, and we can only allocate so much time, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
I wanted to kind of help just give some cliff notes with the references and everything. And
That's awesome, man.
Going back to these Twitter spaces, I think these are great and all, and it's unprecedented. However, I think it's
unprecedented. It's awesome having you here tonight too, brother.
100%.
100%, my man.
Hey, Nelson, you want to move to that to your new room you're setting up? Am I right?
Absolutely. Lisa Marie Presley, link up top.
I do that right now, and I'll shut this one down, buddy.
Let's do it. And I can wrap up if you guys need me to. So all I can say.
I'm sorry. I thought you had.
I thought you landed already, man.
I thought you were a burrito, bro.
I mean, goddamn.
You were wrapped up.
Appreciate you, brother. We'll catch you in the next one, man. Thank you very much. JC, let's land this thing. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, appreciate everybody being here tonight. Again, I do Ryan Serhant tomorrow. I don't know if you're able to how you follow my channel or have the notifications turned on, but if you do that, you won't miss anything. And I promise you, I will continue to bring world leaders and big thinkers, and like as soon as Elon improves spaces, there'll be more of you that get to come up and speak and ask questions. I look forward to that day. I look forward to getting to know all you guys. I know my wife and I both are very much into people. We love people, good people that want to do good things, big things, and be successful. Wishing you guys massive success in 2023. And until next time, thank you for joining.
Let's go.
Thank you, G. Thank you, Nelson. Great room, everybody. Thank you. Good night.